The Earl of Branton was a prominent figure in the arts. In the Kingdom of Lancaster, he was showered with compliments for his delicate and colorful style, and now he is known as the Hand of God. The girl says that now those who don't know him call him that. However, she believes that some of his works were actually his wife's paintings. And then she asks the gentleman what he thinks. His Majesty says he finds this interesting, but does not understand why Countess Brereton allowed her husband to get all the glory. The lady explains that Elton is the most powerful media company in the kingdom, owned by the Duke of Sussex, and she asks the gentleman to publish her husband's true story, because she just wants her life back. The main character remembers that in her youth, she lost her parents and was the only heir. At that time, Ryan healed her pain. He said that he always wanted to be with her, Lady Brereton. The girl says that she has linked her future with him. The lady says that the second son is ready. However, she understands that now he has difficulties with inheriting property and receiving the title. The gentleman asks what is the point of being a count, since he believes that every man should find a way to become famous. Hearing this, the girl thought that she wanted to fulfill all his wishes, because he always said that he did not understand what he did, because God does not love him so much. The main character even had to write his name on the pictures, with the hope that all the glory would go to him, and she did it so that he would be happy. The lady asks if the count is rarely at home, and his wife explains that he always says that he works in the workshop, but lately he comes home drunk. The main character says that one day when he came home, he smelled of another woman's perfume. Ryan denied everything and asked if she was trying to blame him for something, and then claimed that it was partly her fault. And the girl with red hair asks if Inez thinks so. She says that honestly, she is not very attractive to men, but she knows that they do not like crazy women like her, and suggests remembering this. Having heard this, the main character asks in surprise what she should do. Charlotte replies that if she were in her place, she would leave the count alone because she knows that he loves freedom, and then claims that maybe this will save their relationship. The main character thanks her friend and says that she really appreciates her advice. The countess, looking out the window, thought that 3 days had passed, but her husband still hadn't returned from the workshop. However, she was worried because she assumed that something might have happened to him, or that he had a lot of work. Inez remembered that today was the day when their wedding anniversary was, but she understands that he is probably very busy, and therefore she will take him some food because she imagines his face when he sees her and thinks that he will be surprised. The main character loved her husband with all her soul because he was her childhood friend, and for her, that was enough. So she thought until that time. Standing at the door, the lady heard her husband talking about what he would do if his wife found out about them, and the mistress was also interested in whether he would stay with her. At this time, the Duchess entered the workshop and saw her husband with his mistress. After what happened, Ryan changed his attitude towards her and tried to convince her otherwise. He asked for forgiveness because he believed that it was just a mistake and nothing serious. The Count said that the man sometimes behaves like children, but he will sort everything out with Charlotte. And then he hugs his wife and says that she is his only Inez. At this time, the main character thought that she could not refuse him such a thing because she loved him very much. The woman wondered if it was strange that she was trying to understand because Ryan had cheated on her because she was not good enough. She thought that if he tried harder, he could become famous. But the lady wondered if he would come back to her. Then, one day it happened. The husband came to Inez and said that she works very hard because he thinks that she helps him a lot, and then asked if she thinks that it's time for them to get a divorce. Hearing this, the main character was surprised because she had never been prepared for that conversation and had never even imagined it. Ryan tells his wife that she is no longer the Countess of Branton, and then says that apathy, paranoia, hallucinations, and calls her a psychopath. He claims that it is time to end because they will come for her soon, and so at this point, he will say goodbye to her. At this time, Inez realized that she had to run because she couldn't let them lock her up. The main character doesn't understand how it all came to that, because suddenly she was hit by a carriage while she was running away. The girl thought that she had dedicated her life to her husband and given him her title, her glory, and even her life, and she had given him everything. However, now she wants to get it all back. After some time, the maid says in surprise that the lady is all sweaty, and then asks if she had a nightmare. At this time, Inez wondered if she was in her room, and she thought that it was all a bad dream. Mary says that the lady is probably tired because today is a very important day, and it is their wedding anniversary. Hearing this, Inez is surprised and asks what date it is today. The maid replies that today is the 28th of May, 1825. Hearing this, the mistress is surprised, and the maid asks if she is feeling ill. At this time, Inez thought how she could forget about the worst day of her life. After all, it had been 3 years since she found out that her husband was cheating on her with her friend. The main character reflects on the fact that she has returned to the worst wedding anniversary of her life. Mary asks the lady if she is sure that she does not want to take a break. However, Inez did not answer, and when she entered the kitchen, she asks in surprise why so much food was served. The maid explains that it is a celebratory dinner in honor of their anniversary, and the lady apologizes and asks if she can leave her for a while. Mary asks in surprise if she is unwell, but the lady assures that everything is fine and suggests that she not worry. At this time, the main character thought that she remembered everything: this wine, this food, and the flowers that she personally chose to decorate the table. And she did all this so that her husband would be happy. Inez turned everything upside down because she knew that the husband she loved with all her heart and her best friend were lovers. The girl understood that the man who was her whole world never loved her, and therefore considered herself stupid because her love for Ryan was pathetic and her friendship with Charlotte was meaningless. Inez reflected on how ashamed she was of how naive she had been in the past. A few days later, the main character thought that no one had seen Ryan that day, and she thought that he was on a date with Charlotte. The lady thought that she shouldn't cry, but should just work. The countess thought that the first thing she should do is return everything that Ryan took from her, because she understands that the best way to return her fortune and title would be a divorce. According to the laws of the kingdom, in order to dissolve a marriage between aristocrats, you need to provide the king with valid reasons. However, the main character understands that there is a problem because the society of the kingdom is men are the main ones, because they can break into the outside world and women must take care of the house. The kingdom of Lancaster is the most conservative in their region, and the girl understood that the problem is not in the laws, but in the fact that the social status does not allow women to divorce. She assumes that it is possible to make a noise and not convince the king to understand her. Inez thought that she could make a scandal and does not understand why she did not think of it before. After all, she understands that the reputation of the artist Ryan is the result of drawing and exhibitions of her paintings. The lady thought that she could tell everyone that he was not a real artist who exhibited her paintings under his name. After all, she knows that her husband's abilities are ordinary and believes that these were never paintings by the hand of God. The girl thought that if she could tell the whole world about this, her life would change. At this time, the butler informs the lady that he has brought her a fresh newspaper. Inez thought that Elton was the most influential newspaper in the kingdom, and that Ryan had previously published her paintings there and had thus achieved the title of the best artist in the kingdom. The girl wondered if she could somehow publicly expose Ryan through Elton. At this time, the husband comes into the room and says that he can't leave the house, and then asks if it's a shame. And then he takes the newspaper and asks if she looks for gossip in such an influential newspaper. And Inez asks if he finds it funny and also wonders if that's all he's going to say. The lady wonders if he'll ask if prices have gone up, and then she claims that they're both enjoying this time. Hearing this, the man asks in surprise what she means. The lady explains that since she was ill, he has never appeared, even though his wife was bedridden. The husband screams and replies that it's all because the work turned out to be urgent, and then asks if she doesn't understand this herself. Inez says that she doesn't understand at all, and then asks what's the matter. Ryan says that he has something to talk to her about, and then asks if she knew that the New Year's ball this time will be held at the royal palace. New Year's ball. Every year the royal family holds a banquet in honor of the new year, and the main character thought that this was a great opportunity to make a good impression on the royal family. After all, she knows that everyone wants to get there. The Earl says that this celebration is very different from the previous one. After all, the Duke of Sussex himself will be there. He is the younger brother of King Edward, and before ascending the throne, he was the right hand of the king and is now the owner of Elton. The husband says that the Duke also supports talented artists, and everyone sponsored by this man has achieved unprecedented heights. Ryan claims that this is her chance to become the best artist in the country, and so he suggests that she prepare herself and get into proper shape. At this time, the main character thought that even in the past, her husband always saw her as a servant and a way to achieve his ambitions. However, she believes that now everything is different because she will be able to meet the Duke, and if she is lucky, she can persuade him to publish the article. The maid looked at the lady and thought that she had been very tired lately, and remembered that before she was busy, either cooking or embroidering, because she always wanted to do something nice for her husband. Mary thought that she would really like to help her mistress, but at this time another maid reports that Baron Jason's lady is now on the first floor. The maid tells the mistress that Baron Jason's lady has come to visit them. Hearing this, the lady is surprised and asks if she has an appointment with her, and the maid explains that this lady has come herself. Inez understands that Charlotte has always acted in her own way, and even now she does not give in, and she also wondered how long she had been looking down on her. Charlotte asks her friend why she is taking so long, and then tells her that she heard she was sick. The lady with red hair asks if she is really sick and why she looks so cheerful, and then asks if it was a lie. Charlotte says that there will be a New Year's ball soon, and she asks if Inez is going too. The girl replies that of course she is going. A friend says that this is wonderful because in fact she does not have a carriage to go to the ball, and she asks if she can lend her carriage because she thinks that they are friends. Hearing this, the maid was surprised because she realized that she wanted to ride in the marital carriage. The knife reads that even if they are in a close relationship, she cannot do this. At this time, Inez realizes that her friend is smiling so slyly, but she knows that she and Ryan were planning to send her to the hospital, and she remained in the dark until her return. The main character takes her hand back and then tells her not to touch it so casually, and then asks if she knows what decency is. The lady says that even if they are friends, then turns around and leaves, and says that she is not feeling well today and therefore offers to leave her. At this time, Inez thought that she was different, and not the naive fool she had been before. At the royal palace, King Edward says he is glad the Duke of Sussex is also going to the ball. His Majesty asks why such seriousness and suggests to relax, and then asks if he is really so dissatisfied with the fact that he forced him to go to the ball. Enoch asks the king what he was thinking, and the Lord asks if this isn't a great chance to meet a young and lovely lady. And at that time, I thought about what he wants him to get married. The guy explains that he will come to the opening of the ball and then leave. The king says that he should dress nicely and asks if he understood, and then says that the lady of his heart will be there. When the young gentleman left the king's chambers, he thought about the lady of his heart, and these words impressed him. At this time, Ryan angrily asks why it took so long. And when he saw his wife, he was surprised and asked if she was crazy and what kind of outfit she was wearing. Inez says she heard that everyone at the ball would be dressed up, but her husband insists that he was trying to be nice and then asks if she was trying to embarrass him. The main character grabs him by the shirt and says that he came in a first-class suit, and then says that when a person comes to a banquet in worn clothes, she wonders if this would be even more shameful. At this time, the girl thought that she had earrings given to her by her mother, and if she had not returned, Charlotte would have worn them. Inez thinks that she will rewrite her destiny. At the banquet, when Baroness Wickham saw Countess Briarton, she said with delight that they had not seen each other for a long time, and that she looked great. The other ladies also noticed that the Countess was very beautifully dressed, and thought it strange because she was always dressed in rags. And the lady in the red dress says that she heard that the Count neglected his wife, but thinks it is just a rumor. Charlotte asks her friend what her outfit is, and wonders if she thinks the solid color outfit looks better. At this time, the main character thought that this was a lie, because Charlotte always said this when she stood out in the crowd, and then she answered that she looked even more beautiful this way, because she really liked this outfit. And the Baroness complimented her. At this time, the lady with red hair does not understand what happened, because she knows that her friend always listened to her. The Countess says that when she dressed at her discretion, no one complimented her, and therefore she believes that her style is better than Charlotte's. At this time, the husband asks what she is saying, and also wonders why she is talking so rudely to Lady Jason. He asks if she decided to humiliate him with her behavior, because she thinks that they are best friends, and she decided to quarrel with her in public. Count Ryan thought that this was a great chance, since she had been acting too arrogant lately, and thought that public humiliation would do her good. At this point, the Duke arrives and says that it seems he has come at the wrong time. He says that the Earl of Briarton's paintings are very good, and he has come here to meet him personally. And then he says that no matter how emotional he is, he should not raise his voice in such a place. Ryan apologizes, and the Duke of Sussex says that the Earl has made it in the art world, and then asks if this happened after his marriage to the Countess. He claims that after the marriage, his wife stayed by his side and gave him her support, and thinks that today is a great day, and then asks why the unnecessary strife and suggests enjoying the banquet. The gentleman asks him to forgive him, and says that he hopes that they will have a good time. The main character does not understand how this is, because she thinks that this is the first time someone has appreciated her efforts, and she is so touched that she is ready to cry. When the Duke went out onto the balcony, he thought that he could not help but show up at the ball, because these people were waiting for him. Inez greeted the Duke of Sussex. He asked the lady in surprise why she had come to see him. She replied that it might seem strange, and then asked if he knew why her husband did not paint portraits of other people. The gentleman wonders what she means by this, and at that moment, he thought that he had never heard of portraits painted personally by the Earl of Briarton. But he thought that such famous artists as he must have many orders. Inez says it's because he can't draw. The paintings of Duke Ryan Briarton are not actually by him. The Duke remembered that when he first saw the painting, he liked it very much, and the gentlemen were surprised, and said that it was a new painting by Ryan, and did not understand how a newbie could paint such masterpieces. The aristocrat says that His Excellency, the Duke of Sussex, is simply enchanted by the painting. He says that such beauty is mesmerizing, and reports that according to rumors, to be more precise, he deserves to be called the artist with the hand of God. The lady reports that up to now all the paintings published in the name of the Earl of Briarton do not in fact belong to him. The Duke asks her, in surprise, what she means. Inez says that, to be honest, her husband achieved such fame thanks to another artist, and then claims that he is not a real artist. The gentleman says that if what his wife said is true, he wonders if it will offend the Lancaster art world. Then he asks if she can prove her words. The girl claims that she can, and then takes paper and pencil, and the man thinks that she is trying to draw a picture because her movements are so smooth, like water in a stream. And he understands that all this time she was hiding her talent. The lady announces that she is finished, and then shows her drawing and says that she was Ryan's artist. The Duke tells her to stop, because he thinks she doesn't need to explain anything anymore. He says that it turns out that the Count stole her name, and that's why no one has ever seen the Count at work. The Countess says that if he painted in front of others, everyone would know his secret, and the man asks in surprise why she decided to reveal his secret. The main character replies that it is difficult for her to talk about it now, but she can say one thing: his reputation will not suffer, and she offers to tell her about his decision. The gentleman tells the lady to look out for Elton's advert next week, as his answer will be there. And then he comes closer to her and tells her that her hands are stained with graphite, and offers to take a napkin to wipe them off before she goes inside. When the girl returned to the hall, her husband asked where she had been since the banquet was in full swing. Inez apologized and said that today she wanted to return to the mansion early and rest so he could stay, and she would go alone. Ryan says that since she wants it that way, he can go home and relax, and then asks if she understands that this is a social life. When the girl was left alone, she thought about what she had done and talked to the Duke of Sussex, and she really wanted him to accept her proposal. A few days later, a reply came from His Excellency. It was quite unexpected and very bold, because the newspaper had written that 3 nights ago he had not forgotten their conversation and wanted to discuss her gift in more detail, and therefore would be looking forward to their meeting. At this time, the gentleman thought that if the Countess was right, then this was tantamount to betraying the empire and the world of art, since he believed that it was almost impossible for women and commoners to make a name for themselves, and he understood that it was wrong to abuse their fame. The Duke wondered if he didn't know about it. However, he thinks that her abilities are simply incomparable. The butler informs the gentleman that the Countess of Briarton has come to see him, and he thinks that if it is all true, it will be a sensation, and then suggests that she come in. The main character greeted His Excellency, and he asks how she is feeling. The lady replies that thanks to him, she is doing well, and he suggests continuing their conversation. The guy says that he thinks it's a bit strange, because it's very difficult for an artist to hide his work process, because if his wife was the one drawing, then it's understandable why he refused to draw in public. The gentleman says that the dubious behavior of the Count is not a reason to trust her, and at that time, he thought that if what she said was true, then measures must be taken immediately. After all, for this the help of the Countess is needed. The Briarton family occupies a high position in the empire, but their help will not be considered a political game, but simply all this will be difficult, because there is another reason. Inez says that he is a very kind person, and she knows that he cannot help her, and therefore she wants to offer a job from which no one will suffer. Hearing this, the Duke was surprised, and the girl said that he was Elton's owner and a journalist, and then said that she wanted to completely destroy her husband and become an independent woman. The gentleman says that of course it is quite an interesting story, and then asks if it would not be better for her to talk about it with her husband. He says that if she wants to write an article about it, there must be a good reason. The guy asks what she is trying to achieve by exposing him. The main character explains that she is someone to him because her husband has another woman, and that woman is her friend, Charlotte Jason. And then she claims that these two betrayed her, and as His Excellency knows, it is difficult to win a divorce case in this country due to infidelity. At this time, the girl thought that her life was wasted, and all for him, because she tried to make everyone know the name Briarton. And then she says that she wants to return everything that rightfully belongs to her. The Duke thought that she was very determined, and her goal was the complete confiscation of all property and title that actually belonged to her, and also understood that she wanted to change the opinion of society through Elton. Mr. asks if she is sure about this, and then says that Elton is a large newspaper that is read by most citizens, and after the publication, the scandal will affect not only the Count, but her as well. The young gentleman says that the article is certainly tempting, but as for her wounds, she should think about it carefully. The girl understands that her husband doesn't need anything except power and wealth, and now the stranger cares about her more than her husband. Inez claims that she has already made her decision. He says that for everyone to see, the article must become a sensation, and the most important thing remains. And then they report that the painting was published under the name of the Count, so she must prove that they are hers. The gentleman says that he has several of her works, and therefore she needs to redraw them. The lady says that she understands. When the girl entered the room, she saw a table with paints on it and thought that it felt like an eternity had passed. But in reality, 3 years had passed, and she understood that a lot had changed. But the only thing that hadn't changed was her talent. After a while, the gentleman asks if she has finished. Hearing this, the girl is surprised and asks if he has been watching the work all this time. He apologizes for frightening her. Inez explains that there is still a little time left, and the guy tells her not to worry about it because he believes that only a fool would not believe his own eyes, and therefore wishes her a promising future. The Duke of Sussex claims that the Countess of Briarton is the hand of God. When the gentleman saw the girl off, he wished her a successful trip and that she be careful. The main character gives him a handkerchief, and he asks if this is the handkerchief he gave her. The girl says that he really helped her out. Then, His Excellency asks why the lady smiles, as if it is their first meeting. She asks if he is uncomfortable, but the gentleman objects and says that she should simply be attentive on the way home. The maid met her mistress, and she asks what happened to Ryan. When Inez went up to the bedroom, she saw her husband drunk, and there was a mark from red lipstick on his shirt. A man reads that as a result of an investigation, several years ago, the paintings of the Earl of Briarton became widely known. They were painted beautifully, but they were not painted by the Earl, and they also studied his relationship with Baroness Jason. The butler asks the gentleman if he is listening to him, since he believes that His Excellency is still interested in the identity of the mysterious artist. The Duke offers to just take a look because he believes that this is not just a hobby, but a talent. As a child, it was difficult for him to hide his true feelings because the prince was so gifted that he could take the succession away from King Edward. And the stronger His Excellency became, the more envious people he had. The man said that this boy is so young and already a genius, and then asked if it was worth postponing the appointment of Prince Edward as Crown Prince. And then he turned to the boy and said that when he ascends to the throne, he should not forget Mr. Felix, because he believes that they are all one family. Enoch turns to his older brother, and he asks why he cried so much, and also wonders who offended him, because the older brother will go and punish the offender. The boy thought that the words of the nobles were just an empty sound. The butler turns to His Excellency and says that it seems to him that unrest is inevitable. Enoch agrees with him and says that even after his abdication of the throne, people were indignant for a long time, and believes that it is the same there, and therefore believes that this is a great opportunity, because the topic is so provocative that it will attract the attention of even the people of the empire. He claims that the more copies, the more noise. The young gentleman believes that Countess Briarton is truly a genius, because by hiding in the shadow of the Count, she ruined her talent, and therefore he feels sorry for her. The man asks what he is going to do. The gentleman thinks that it would be a good idea to first attract the attention of the kingdom's inhabitants, and they will organize an exhibition. However, the exhibition will include the works of this countess. The butler says that chaos could break out, but the guy claims that there is no other way because he thinks that rumors will start, and the name of this exhibition will be the title of the article. At this time, the nobles are discussing a new newspaper in which it was written that the owner of Elton is holding an art exhibition. The Duke of Sussex wants to support talented artists, and it seems that this way they will be heard about in the country. Ryan asks his wife if she's heard that the Duke is holding an art exhibition. She asks, surprised, why the exhibition? The husband insists that this is his chance to shine even brighter. Then he asks if it's not a source of pride for a wife to see her husband's success. The Count says that he needs her to paint a picture and then asks if she will do it. Inez says that this is the first time he has had lunch with her in so long. He asks in surprise if this is really true, and then explains that he has an active social life, and it is easy to lose track of time. The husband says that things are a bit hectic now, and that he will have to get up early and come home late, and then asks if she understands this. And then he claims that from now on, he will come home early and will always try to have lunch with her. Hearing this, the main character thought that she just felt funny for a moment, and then she says that she will think about it. He thanked her, and then says that he didn't even know what he would do without her. At this time, the girl thought that she was sincerely glad that he fell into her trap. Inez tells the Duke that Ryan has asked her to paint a picture for the exhibition. The Lord says that, as expected, the Count's greed knows no bounds, although he knows that such people are easy to read. The lady says that they can now follow through with their plan to paint a picture for the exhibition in the Count's name, and send the same in his wife's name. 2 paintings in the same style will start discussions, and then people will expose the Count's lies. Enoch says that, of course, painting 2 paintings at once is not an easy task, and thinks that he will have to try hard. And the lady says that she should thank him for giving her a chance. The gentleman says that now all that remains is to fill out the records, and then asks if she doesn't need a place where she could work to paint 2 pictures at once. He says that he will help her. Inez claims that everything is fine because she can handle it, since she already has an idea. When they arrived, the gentleman said that it was amazing, because he didn't know that she personally visited Huabang Street. The lady says that it is very convenient there, and that she can buy the necessary items there. And at that time, she thought that she was surprised that His Excellency followed her. The girl believes that his beauty cannot be hidden by any clothes, and that attention cannot be avoided. Inez says that Mr. Ryan avoids the company of ordinary people, and he attracts so much attention to himself, and she thinks that it is desirable for them not to run into her husband, and then reports that she recently opened an atelier with her art materials. At this time, the saleswoman says that she has not seen the lady for a long time. Hearing this, the gentleman asks if this woman is the owner of her studio. She answers that it is easier to hide this way, and therefore asks to play along with her. The woman asks how the lady is doing, and then suggests that they go quickly, because she will show her the new brush that she recently received. The saleswoman asks if she needs a place for a studio. Then she says that she has an empty top floor and asks about it, because she thinks this place would be perfect. Inez says she'll think about it and let you know what she decides, and the saleswoman suggests going up there right now and having a look around. The main character thought that this was a good place, because there was also a large window and a great view of the street. The woman says that once she has looked around, she should come down, and she will wait for her at the bottom. Enoch looked out the window and said that it was a wonderful view, and that it inspired him to create masterpieces. The girl said that she wanted to present this landscape at an exhibition. She thought that this place was perfect for her, and thanked him for going with her today. The Duke says that he wanted it himself, and the lady says that he has wasted his time and is probably hungry. She asks if he would like to try a sandwich. The main character thought that she was stupid, because it was impossible for the Duke to eat something like that, because he doesn't eat that, and it's food for the poor, and she thought that she had made a big mistake. However, the guy took the food and thanked her, and then he says that it is too good for a regular sandwich. Enoch offers the lady a bet. He explains that if she achieves her plans and returns everything that is rightfully hers, then she must treat him to dinner. Hearing this, girl thought that he wants to have dinner with her, and then agrees and claims that she will treat him to the most delicious food that is. He says that he will wait impatiently. The next day, the gentleman came to the shop and asked where Miss Inez was. The woman replied that she was in the studio, and then asked if she hadn't told him that she would be painting all day. Miss Rena reports that the lady said she wanted to paint a picture for the Duke's exhibition, and thought her pictures were wonderful, but didn't think about her health at all. The woman asks the gentleman what kind of relationship he has with her. She claims that he comes to her almost every day and then asks if he likes Miss Innes. He only smiled in response. And at that moment he thought about whether it really looks like that and thinks that he should be extremely careful, because if it comes out, there will be a lot of problems. When the girl saw him, she got scared and then asked why he was entering so quietly, and then suggested to come closer. He explains that he knocked twice. Inez apologizes and says that sometimes she doesn't hear anything around her when she's drawing. The gentleman says that it means she's very focused on her work, and then says that he bought some food and asks if she wants some. Enoch showed the girl the sandwiches and said that he thought she liked them very much and that's why he bought them. She thanked him and explained that it was the first time someone cared about her like that. The lady says that she has almost finished the painting and asks if he wants to see it. She thinks that it would be nice if he could evaluate her work right away. The gentleman says that he would be glad to see it first. The girl says that the painting will be exhibited under her name and then shows the second one. The guy says that it looks like a series of landscapes. She explains that she painted it like that on purpose because they are similar, and then everyone will guess that the author is the same. The Duke says he can tell her plan worked. She says she's glad His Excellency liked it. The gentleman asks if he can take the finished painting, but the lady objects and says that she must take it home first because she thinks that maybe her husband will like it and change his mind. Hearing this, the Duke thought that she was still holding on to her husband and believed that at least she hoped to receive words of approval from him for her talent. When the main character arrived home, she asked Mary to move all the things to her room. A few minutes later, her husband's carriage arrived, and Inez asked in surprise if he had just returned. And at that moment, she felt that he smelled of a terrible smell of alcohol. The wife tells him that she has finished a painting for an exhibition, and then asks if he wants to see it. He says that she knows and wonders why she would ask about such things, and then tells her that he trusts her completely. Ryan says that if she doesn't mind, he will drink at the mansion. On the opening day of the exhibition, which took place in the royal palace, many aristocrats arrived. They understood that no matter how many paintings were brought, only the worthy ones would be chosen. The head of the Royal Society of Arts, Marquis Usher, wonders why there is so much noise there, because this is a pavilion where paintings by the best artists of the country will be exhibited. The man invites him to go inside and look around, but the gentleman doesn't understand why there is such a fuss there and then asks what's going on. The gentleman explains that a painting by the Earl of Briarton was on display and invites them to look at it for themselves. Then he asks if he thinks the two paintings are similar. At this time, the main character was surprised because so many people came to this exhibition. She does not understand how she can now get to the center of the hall. Suddenly, the lady heard talk about her having painted a similar picture, and the gentleman thought that there was only one author in these works, and they did not understand what the Countess was thinking about. At this time, the young lady thought that this is what she had been going towards for so long, and she thinks that it is quite difficult to receive so much attention because her life has changed in contrast to the past. And now she is happy with everything. The Duke of Sussex asks the Countess if she has arrived, and then kisses her hand and says that he is very glad to see her. Seeing this, the lords thought that they were so close, and at this time the main character says that it seems to her that he has attracted enough attention to himself and considers him brave. The gentleman suggests that she go because this exhibition is for her. The Duke asks for a moment of attention because he wants to introduce Countess Inez Briarton, and then informs them that she is the author of the decoration of this exhibition. After all, she is an artist, and she is the hand of God. The aristocrats were surprised to hear this, and the lady asked if Countess Briarton had painted the picture of the Count. Charlotte approaches Ryan and offers him to look at the newspaper, and then tells him that it says something terrible. He asks in surprise what is going on, and when he reads that there are two paintings of similar style at the Duke of Sussex's art exhibition, I confirm that the Earl of Briarton is a fraud. Ryan asks in surprise if Inez has submitted another painting under her name, and Charlotte asks in surprise what he is doing since it is tabloid, and almost the entire city has read the news. The Count doesn't understand what the hell is going on, and thinks that it most likely needs to be fixed, and then he ran to the exhibition. The nobles were surprised when they saw him, because they did not understand how he had the courage to come to this place. Ryan screams and turns to his wife and asks how this happened. He asks if she understands what she is doing, because she believes that everything he wanted has collapsed because of him. The main character claims that all he wanted was to take the glory for himself, and then says that she no longer wants to draw for him. The man was surprised to hear this. Inez asks if he heard correctly, and then claims that she will no longer create for him. She asks how long he plans to use her, like a parasite. At this time, Count Bryanton thought that this was a mistake, because his wife had changed a lot. And then screaming, he asked what all this meant. When the man saw the Duke of Sussex, he greeted him. And the gentleman says that he is glad to meet him because he is a familiar face again. He claims that at his art exhibition, no one is allowed to harm others, and he neglected this. The gentleman says that this could cost him his reputation. Hearing this, Ryan thought that the article was published by the Elton newspaper. Inez suggests that her husband return to the mansion, and then informs him that a letter about the dissolution of the marriage will soon be sent. The newspaper wrote about the divorce process of the Earl of Briarton, and about the fact that the Countess decided to change her life, and everyone was also interested in who the artist really was. After reading this, His Majesty says that such funny things are happening to them, and then asks Enoch if he is really ready for something big. The Duke asks if that's why he called him here. He replies that he's just surprised that his brother is interested in a woman, because he didn't know he was interested in the opposite sex. The king says that the Countess of Briarton has not been seen in society since her marriage, and he thought that her life was a fairy tale, and then he asks if it really was that serious. His Majesty says that he is curious whether it is worth visiting this exhibition. Enoch asks him to stop, since it is not easy without him. He also suggests not to burden anyone, but just sit and watch, since he believes that even if he visits the exhibition, he is unlikely to meet her. The Duke informs her that she is currently engaged in divorce proceedings with the Count, and then asks His Majesty the Emperor what his verdict will be. The king says that, to be honest, he doesn't know, because after careful checks, he made a final decision that will not be biased towards either side. Edward says he doesn't know why, but if his brother wants to support the Countess, then he should be ready for the verdict, and asks if he liked her. At this time at the Hamilton Hotel, a gentleman asks if Countess Briarton lives there because he really wanted to meet her. The main character looked out the window and thought that it was good that this problem was solved, but now everyday life has become a burden to her. After all, one day of an art exhibition and all the headlines about this news, the girl understands that Ryan is playing the victim. But according to the news from Elton's newspaper, his excuses are worthless, and she would really like to drive him out of the mansion. But now she understands that there is no need to think about it until they are divorced. Inez understands that she has come this far thanks to the help of His Excellency. At this time, the butler enters the room and apologizes because she stipulated that no one should be let in. And then she says that the Viscount's wife, that is Ryan's mother, her mother-in-law, is looking for her downstairs. The main character remembers that when she first saw this woman, she told her that she was very happy to be part of her family, but she understands that she cannot heal the pain of losing her parents, but she will try to become her second mother. Inez knew that Miss Go's appearance was just a pretense, and she knew that after the wedding, her father and Ryan were pumping out Brian's money, and this two-faced woman had humiliated her so much that she herself became her mistress. The mother-in-law opens the door and says that she came to visit, but they won't let her in, and then asks what kind of rude behavior she's had since she heard about everything, and thinks that her daughter-in-law has disgraced Ryan at the art exhibition. The woman asks if this girl understands what she has done, and then screaming she claims that if she became his wife, she should obey her husband, and asks how she dares to treat her son like that. The main character tells the woman that she is thinking of divorcing Ryan. Hearing this, Miss Go says that she is a girl who has not been able to give birth to an heir for him for all these years, and so brazenly talks about divorce, and then says that she is putting the honor of Briarton on the line. Inez tells her mother that she doesn't know why she suddenly started talking about Briarton's honor, and then she says that after her divorce from Ryan, these people won't touch her, and besides, she's so happy. The woman screams that this is madness, and the girl says that regarding the children, this still needs to be clarified because Ryan has a partner with whom he spent an infamous number of nights together, and therefore he thinks that maybe he has children, and asks what she thinks. Hearing this, the mother-in-law changed her tone and then calls the girl her children and says that she is still young and does not know much about the world, and she understands how much Ryan's betrayal hurt her, and then says that men always do this, and even if they do not have fun outside the home for long. At this time, the main character thought about how she lost her parents early and was never attached to adults, but that her mother always takes Ryan's side in matters of marriage, and that she is aiming for the inheritance of the writer Beck. She was silent and put up with all this thinking that there would be some meaning in this. Inez says that's all, and the Countess claims that this is absurd, and then asks if she thinks it's so easy to get a divorce as a woman. The mother-in-law says that nothing will work out for her, and she will beg for her forgiveness. At this time, the Duke enters the room, and when he sees the Countess, he asks what happened. He says that he just decided to check if everything is okay with her. The lady explains that it was just her mother-in-law who dropped by to visit, and it was a bit noisy. The man says that he told the manager not to let strangers in and to see to it again, but the girl objects and says that it is not worth it because his mother is already bothering him a lot. Enoch asks the Countess how about living in his mansion. She was surprised to hear this. After some time, the main character says that this is a very fantastic forest right behind the house. Because of her mother-in-law's intrusion, she could not stay at the hotel, and the Duke said that he had several mansions, and so she could live in one of them. Until the court hearing, the main character stayed to live at His Excellency's villa. There is only one day left before the divorce hearing, and the young gentleman asks how she feels. The lady replies that she doesn't even know because she is a little scared. Enoch wonders why Inez says what will happen if she suddenly loses the case, because she thinks that she will have to live with Ryan as a husband, and if this happens, then most likely she will not be able to bear it. The Duke says that this will definitely not happen, and claims that she will definitely win the case, and he, as the owner of Elton, can assure her of this. At this time, the main character smiled and explained that she had never heard His Excellency raise his voice. Enoch asked for forgiveness and explained that he simply relaxed a little around her. Suddenly, Inez sees the rabbits and invites the gentleman to look at them. She says that she wants to make a sketch and asks if he can wait for her for a little while. He says that she can draw as much as she wants. Watching the girl, the young gentleman remembered the girl's words about how she had heard him raise his voice for the first time, and this made him laugh a little. The next day, there was a divorce hearing. The king announces that the hearing of the divorce case of the Earl and Countess of Briarton is about to begin. Then he invites everyone to take their seats in the hall. His Majesty proposes to hear the side of the Count, who objects to the dissolution of the marriage. Aristocrats say that Earl Briarton tried hard. In order not to lose the case, he hired a divorce specialist, Viscount Turner, and his services are very expensive. The Viscount says that he thinks the whole thing is a bit strange, since her husband stole her paintings and became famous, and then asks if that is why she is asking for a divorce. He thinks that this is the Countess's argument, not supported by any facts. His Majesty says that he also heard that two rather similar paintings were presented at the exhibition. Turner says that the Earl and Countess had been painting together for quite a long time, and in the process, of course, the style of painting could have become similar, embarrassing the art world in the kingdom with false accusations and trying to dissolve the marriage as a woman. The Viscount believes that the reputation of the court and the count is all in order to drag them through the mud. At this time, the Duke thought that the audience's reception was not as warm as it seemed, but he understood that it was not entirely clear whether the theft had taken place or not. The king proposes to hear the countess's side. McDowell says that he is the countess's lawyer. The women were surprised to hear this because they understood that he was still very young, and it seemed that the head of the family had not yet managed to find a suitable lawyer for the countess. At this time, the main character thought that, although he was very young, she was also surprised at first. 2 years ago, Viscount McDowell had not yet shone as a lawyer, but in the future, he was called the first lawyer of the Kingdom of Lancaster. Inez realizes that if Ryan's plan is just to hire a very expensive lawyer, then she already has information about the future. The man announces that the lawyer's speech is beginning, and then says that the opposing lawyer claims that the Count and Countess worked together for a long time, as a result of which their drawing styles could become similar, and then asks if this is his statement. The Count's lawyer says that's exactly it. McDowell asks everyone present to look at it and points to the couple's paintings from the exhibition. Then he asks the Count if he can describe the process of working on the painting. The Street of Workshops. Ryan says the work captures the colorfulness of the workshop street, and he tried to create transparency by controlling the concentration of paint so it doesn't build up in thick layers. At this time, the main character thought that her husband does not understand drawing at all and believes that he says this on the advice of his lawyer. McDowell asks if he worked on the paper dry in this way to avoid streaks. Ryan says that he did. Hearing this, the lawyer asks if that is strange, and then says that this painting was painted wet on wet. The lawyer asks if he sees that a technique is being used that allows for a soft blurring of the boundaries of objects, and he wonders if the Count is unfamiliar with the process of writing a street in the workshops. Ryan asks him, screaming what he's talking about because he thinks it was just a slip of the tongue. The Duchess's lawyer asks if he can then tell them the real story behind the painting. Hearing this, the Count could not say a word, but Inez said that this street of workshops is the second street, and this is the view from the second floor of Mrs. Lant's studio. The woman's lawyer says that as everyone can see, the Count does not have any information about this work, and he claims that he painted this picture but does not understand why he is so confused. Viscount Turner addresses His Majesty and says that his client is very worried about the divorce department and therefore asks for understanding as his evidence may be somewhat inconsistent. Turner claims that they swore to love each other, sealed this promise with the bonds of marriage, and then lived what the Count thought was an ideal life, and therefore he believes that he is very confused because his wife is divorcing him. McDowell says he wants to get away from those emotional stories and make everyone in the audience sympathize because he knows that's his trick. Turner turns to the Countess and says that he understands her because after the wedding, the Count could not remain as faithful as before, and then asks if not all men have an inevitable social life. The Viscount says that women quickly become lonely, and at the same time the Count was often absent and probably disappointed, and then asks the lady how she can resort to perjury. Hearing this, the main character does not understand how he can talk about such things because she has experienced all her regrets and anger. Turner reports that in fact the Countess herself did not want so much fuss. He turns to His Majesty and asks to remove the case from consideration and leave the spouses together. Inez couldn't stand it and said whether this is the social life he was shouting about, and then asked whether it was about loving one and being with another woman. Rayon, surprised, asks what she is talking about, and Inez shows him today's newspaper and tells him that in this issue, her husband is accused of immoral behavior with clear evidence. At this time, all the aristocrats who were in the hall were given newspapers, and they read that this woman was Charlotte Jason, and they thought that it was not surprising that they became such friends. The lady says that the whole point is that the lawyer's speech showed that the artist with the hand of God is the Countess. Inez says that the ideal family life they were talking about initially did not exist because she knows that her husband only needed the title and reputation of an artist. Hearing this, Ryan screams and objects, saying that this is the delirium of a crazy woman. His Majesty says that he has listened carefully to both sides and thinks that if the non-obvious facts are set aside, a decision can be made regarding their case, and then proposes to do so. The king says that the Count and Countess will now redraw the Street of Workshops. Hearing this, the Count objects, and the king says what you won't do for a fair court decision. A few minutes later, His Majesty says he wants to begin the authentication. And then the couple began to paint their own picture. The king says that before the test, he wants to ask the Countess a question, and is interested in whether she really wants to divorce the Count, and also whether her goal is to restore her good name and right to property if he guarantees it to her in the name of the king. The gentleman asks if she will agree to continue living a married life with the Count. The lady replies that not at all, and when he proposed to her, she thought that this marriage would make up for everything that was missing in her life and give her the family that she did not have. Inez says that she believed that the Count would help her forget her worries because she would no longer be the sole head of the family. But now she has realized that marriage is not what will complete her life. The girl says that this feeling when she is noticed and these meetings with countless people, and then she says that she does not regret at all that she started the divorce process because she does not want to return to the past. Inez says that for her, this is the moment of finding a second life. His Majesty says that he understood her, and then reports that based on an investigative experiment to determine the real author of the Street of Workshops, and having heard the speeches of both parties, he issues a verdict that from this moment, the marriage of the spouses, Count and Countess, is declared dissolved. The king says that the title of the Briarton family, which belonged to the former husband, Ryan Gott, is returned to Inez Briarton and is not subject to appeal, and this declares the matter closed. Hearing this, the lady was surprised because the divorce petition was granted, and now Inez must be called the head of the Briarton family. They became interested in who the former earl would be now. Ryan wanted to talk to Inez, but the Count stood in his way and asked if he wanted to speak to Countess Briarton. He explained to His Majesty that he wanted to talk to Inez for a moment. The gentleman claims that the Countess is certainly tired after the court hearing and thinks that it would be a good idea if he spoke to her at the next opportunity. Enoch takes the girl by the hands and asks her to go. He shows her a path where reporters cannot enter. She thanks him, and he tells her that this is a passage for the royal family only. At this point, the king tells her to thank the Duke of Sussex, as he had begged her to let him use this passage, and then he tells her that the courage she has shown today is quite remarkable. King Edward believes that this trial will set a good precedent, and he hopes that it will inspire other nobles who suffer in similar situations. His Majesty says that he leaves there in a great mood, and then tells the Countess that they will see her again. Enoch asks the Countess if she is okay, and then says that His Majesty has always been something of a prankster. At this time, the main character thought that she had just regained the title of head of the family, and that the nightmarish past would never return. And then she turns to His Excellency and thanks him. The gentleman asks her in surprise why she is crying. She replies that it is because she is very grateful, but he claims that she did everything herself and asks if it is worth shedding tears on such a happy day. When the Duke touched the girl, he said that her forehead was burning. Inez said that her head was spinning a little, and suddenly she fell to the floor. Enoch asks in surprise what's wrong with her, and when the girl woke up, she thought that she was so awkward, but her heart was calmer than ever. At this time, Charlotte says that Inessa is a crazy girl who thought that she would calmly endure this, and then she claims that she will not take away everything from her until the last. When the main character woke up, she realized that this was her room in the estate, and she became curious about what happened in court and thought that it was all a dream. The maid asks the lady if she is awake. Inez screams and says that she does not remember how she got back to the estate, and then asks how the trial went. Mary replies that she won in court, and now she is the rightful head of the Briarton family. And then she says that from now on, she will call her not Countess, but Madam. The maid says that His Excellency, the Duke of Sussex, has driven her to the estate, and they must throw a reception in honor of her return of the title. And so she understands that there will be a lot of trouble. Mary tells the lady that she received a gift from the Duke, and it was a basket full of flowers. The main character thought that when they first met, she painted a still life with the same flowers, and she thinks that he is really very attentive, and his handwriting is beautiful. The Elton newspaper wrote that the divorce case of the Earl and Countess of Briarton ended in victory for the wife, and that in fact the hand of God turned out to be Inez Briarton. When the girl read the newspaper, she realized that this article described in detail everything that happened yesterday in court, and she believed that His Excellency had made a lot of effort. The Countess thought that she too should clean up some things. Ryan screams and asks what they are doing and who allowed them to show up in his studio. At this time, Inez comes in and says that of course she allowed it. Seeing her, the gentleman kneels down and asks her to think again, and then says that he was an idiot and simply did something stupid. The man does not understand how it was possible to turn away from such a good wife as she is, and therefore believes that he deserves to die, and then asks to give him just one more chance. The main character asks if he knows that this studio was made just for him, starting with the smallest pieces of furniture and wallpaper and down to every tube of paint. The lady claims that she personally chose every little thing, especially for him. And he, in this very studio, laughed sweetly, kissed her friend Charlotte, and engaged in obscenity. Inez says that she believed him and Charlotte, and he just laughed at her. And then she congratulates him on the divorce and wishes him a good life, although she does not know how happy his future will be. Ryan asks the girl to wait, but at that moment the knight stood up for her. At that moment the main character thought that there were always people who tried to be on her side in her past life, and she did not think about it. The lady says to throw out Mr. Ryan Gott from the estate, and then she turns to the maid and thanks her. The Duke of Sussex turns to the lady and says that she handled the situation perfectly well herself, and he didn't even have time to get a word in edgewise. Seeing him, the main character asks in surprise how he ended up there. The gentleman explains that he was passing by her estate, and the servants told him where to find her, and then asks if this is her ex-husband's studio. Inez says that she put her heart and soul into making this place for him, and that's why she just wants to get rid of it now, because she thinks that it could be a much better place, and it could be an exhibition hall or something like that. At this time, the gentleman thought that he too was behaving like a fool, because he did not understand why he felt sad every time the Countess spoke about her husband, and why her brother had instructed her to do this particular matter. Enoch asks the Countess if she remembers her promise to treat him to dinner when everything is over. Hearing this, the main character thought that now that the trial was over, she would no longer be able to see His Excellency. And then she said that she would not just treat him to dinner, but would repay him for his help with everything she could. And so it could be anything, and let him just tell her about it. The Duke says he wants her to paint his portrait with her own hands. At this time he thought that with her, he would like to stand out a little more often. In a few days, Inez began painting the gentleman's portrait. He says he thinks a simple composition would be nice too. The lady says that the thought that this portrait will be painted in gratitude for the service gives her strength. The main character understands that the divorce case is completed, and His Excellency met with her to paint a portrait. The lady says she will start with a sketch. The gentleman at this time thought that he has no feelings for the Countess of Briarton. Enoch remembers a conversation with his brother, who said that it was the first time he saw him using his name and status to help someone. After all, his brother, who never said what he liked, never said what he wanted, and then asked if it wasn't interesting. Hearing this, the gentleman thought that his brother really understood everything correctly. After all, at first, he was interested in the Countess because of her genius, but now everything is different, and he is interested in a woman named Inez. The lady says that the sketch is ready, and he did a great job, but the man objects and says that the Countess wrote it and must have been more tired than he was. The girl asks him if he liked the sketch. He replies that it looks great, and she wrote it so beautifully that he even feels embarrassed. Inez says that she thinks she will need a little more time to work with the color, and therefore thinks they will need to meet again, and then asks if it will be too much trouble. The gentleman assures him that this will not be too difficult for him, and then asks if this will not be too burdensome for her, since she keeps this studio only for working on his portrait, and wonders if she would not be more comfortable if she remodeled this room. Hearing this, the main character understands that even though this was Ryan's studio, before now, it is the place where she paints a portrait of His Excellency. The lady says that it must be like getting rid of bad memories by painting over them with good ones, and doesn't understand why she is so embarrassed. Enoch asks if he has become a good memory for her, and then says that it makes her very happy. Inez looked at him and wondered if he was interested in her, but she knew she couldn't know what was in His Excellency's soul, and if that was the case, she didn't know what was going on with her. The main character believes that she writes much more carefully than before, and her soul is at peace when she is next to His Excellency. Lost in her thoughts, she suddenly overturned a bucket of water. The gentleman says that he will call her to be a servant, and the girl thought that if she is not indifferent to him, then she thinks that it is not worth it, because she respects His Excellency, and it should be only like that. And Ryan's lies and betrayal with Charlotte were reported in Elton's newspaper, in His Excellency's newspaper, and it was also written that she was in fact the hand of God and Inez Briarton. The main character understands that His Excellency supported her publicly and understood that rumors would soon begin that they were close. Enoch turns to the Countess and says that her complexion is unhealthy, and then asks if she is all right. She explains that she is just a little tired. Inez understands that His Excellency is a really good man, and she cannot tarnish his reputation and feelings, which she is not yet sure of. But she believes that it is better to immediately cross the possibility of any relationship. Lita says that she is very tired, and then asks if they can finish for today. The Duke says that now she is a countess, and as an artist, and as the head of the family, she is so brilliant. And he thinks that it is such an honor to see that her wings have spread. And then he says that he really wanted to tell her this and see her face. At this time in the royal castle, His Majesty is reading a newspaper and says that Elton's sales are breaking all records. Queen Helena asks His Majesty what he is studying so carefully, and she wonders if anything interesting has been printed in Elton. The king offers to look at it, and then says that as expected the truth is much more interesting than fiction. She says that it is the article about the Baron's daughter, Jason. The gentleman asks if she means Ryan Gott's mistress, because he didn't know they knew each other. She claims that, of course, he didn't know, because she doesn't think it's the most pleasant of memories. She remembers that when they were in the garden, Charlotte said that he was so charming, and it was all thanks to the caring hand of Count Ramble. A man tells his wife that it is Charlotte the leech who pesters Countess Briarton and follows her everywhere at aristocratic receptions. He also believes that she is trying her best to impress the nobles. The aristocrat says that this Countess of Briarton is taking her along because they are friends. Inez greeted the queen and said that she was happy to meet her. Helen said that they had not seen each other for a long time, and the lady with red hair said that she was Charlotte Jason and was happy to greet her queen. Her Majesty says she is very active and pleased to meet you. Charlotte says she is very pleased to have the opportunity to speak to the Queen and would have loved to join the tea party at the palace, but has not had the chance. Helen smiled and said that in that case there would be room for her next time. The lady with the red hair said that she would be honored because in such wonderful weather, it would be wonderful to go boating together on the Hudson River near this island. The public was not aware of this because no one knew that the Queen's cousin had drowned in the Hudson River while boating. Her Majesty thought that it was still unpleasant for her to hear a reminder of this, and then said that if she often appeared in society, she would hear all sorts of things. Helen says, "It's wonderful that Countess Briarton did this, because she seemed very quiet at various meetings and receptions." The king says that Enoch also helped her, and he believes that they still have much to learn. The lady says that in the end, everything turned out well, and she is going to invite the Duke to dinner. The Queen says she has news, and she thinks the Duke of Sussex will be interested to hear about it. Her husband backs her up and says he thinks it will be wonderful. Countess of Briarton arrived for tea at Baroness Wickham's country estate. She thought that this was the first social event she would attend since her title was restored, and that she would have to show her fortitude even after such a scandal. The main character overheard a conversation about how it was the Duke who discovered and helped develop the talent of Baroness Briarton. And another lady says that he must be amazingly insightful because he owns the Elton newspaper, and then says that who would have thought that it would become the largest publication in the kingdom. The young lady thought that if you look at it that way, there was even a scandal in the royal family regarding the succession to the throne. And His Majesty, whom she personally met, showed only the makings of a businessman, and she could not even think about it. After all, it was as if he was deliberately trying to renounce the throne. The butler reports that among the invited guests today, and at this time Inez thought that it was time for her to come in. The Countess says she hopes the Baroness has had a good chew, and then says it's a bit awkward to be there after such a long absence. The Baroness objects and says that they are very happy to finally see her, and thinks that she must have experienced many difficulties during this time. The butler approaches the lady and says that he asks for forgiveness, and then reports that one young lady made a scandal outside in order to be let into the estate. The Baroness says to just throw her out of here, and then asks who dared. He explains that it is Charlotte, the daughter of Baron Jason. At this time, the lady with red hair asks how she dares to ignore her, because she thinks that she will never leave Inez alone. Fresh rose in the banquet halls, dazzlingly beautiful. Charlotte Jason is exactly how she was seen in society. Charlotte believes that this place was hard-earned for her, and she did not think that anyone could take it away. When the Baroness read that the recent invitation to the reception was invalid after all, what was written in Elton's newspaper was true. Charlotte understood that invitations to banquets were being cancelled one after another, and Ryan had disappeared. She believes that her life is falling apart because of this scandal, but she had offered so much effort to get into high society, and Inez was that girl, and it was all because of her. The lady with red hair thought that she needed to meet with Inez. The guard says that the owner told her not to let her in. Charlotte, surprised, asks what's wrong with Mary, and then says that she is her owner's best friend, and claims that she told her to always let her in. The maid explains that the mistress has changed her instructions, and then says that if she is looking for a meeting with her, then she should arrange an appointment by letter. The Baroness asks why she should be given such honors if she just wants to see Inez. Mary screams and explains that she has to do it because it is the basics of respectful behavior. After all, she knows how many times the mistress has fussed over her as a friend, and she can even express gratitude to her. Charlotte asks what Inez did for her, and then asks how dare a servant teach her manners. Mary says that she thinks there is no point in continuing the conversation and suggests that the lady leave. And then she reports that the mistress has already left for Miss Wickham's estate, where she was invited earlier. Charlotte was surprised to hear this, because it was the same Mrs. Wickham who had cancelled her invitation as soon as the scandal broke out. However, she thinks that it doesn't matter, because Wickham and Inez are together now. The lady thought that she knew Inez well, and would tell her that Ryan seduced her, first climbed under her skirt, and all that, and this fool would immediately calm down. Charlotte thought that if Inez accepted her again, this time she would spread such disgusting rumors that she would not be able to save her reputation. The Baroness says that she did send Charlotte a letter in which she clearly cancelled her invitation. The butler claims that the letter was definitely delivered, but she claims that she wants to see the Countess of Briarton. Hearing this, the Baroness was surprised and ordered her to be removed from there immediately, since she considered it rude. Inez says that because of her mistress Jason made a scene at her estate in front of everyone, and therefore would not want people to talk about her because she said that she wanted to see her, and then offers to let her do it and release Mistress Jason. When Charlotte entered the house, she thought that Inez had let her in and that she had walked all the way there and considered her friend a naive fool who could do nothing without her. Charlotte thanks the lady for agreeing to meet with her and then says that she believes there was a misunderstanding between them. Inez suggests discussing everything in order, and they will start with correcting the names. And then she says that they are titled aristocrats and therefore will politely call her by her title of Baroness. The main character invites her to sit down, since this is a tea party that she so wanted to attend. Charlotte says that if you think about it, she has now got her title back, which means she will soon be happy. Lady says that is quite possible, because she believes that there are limits to what a representative can do. The Baroness says it's hard to imagine how she could find time for tea with her busy schedule. Inez says she's very grateful for the invitation and hopes they'll see each other more often in the future. The lady turns to Viscountess Fildette and says that she heard that her father recently opened a ceramics importing business. Alia D, with black hair, asks in surprise if this news has reached her. The Countess replies that of course it is because she has heard that the scale of the enterprise is quite large, and therefore she hopes that they will give the Briarton family the opportunity to invest in it. The Viscountess enthusiastically says that they would be immensely grateful if she decided to invest in their enterprise, and then asks if she heard that the Duke of Sussex took part in the last meeting of the House of Lords. At this time, Charlotte thought about everything they were talking about, and if it were like before, then she would be at the center of the discussion, and not someone like Inez. The Marquise says that this is exactly how it was last time, and upon hearing this, the girl with red hair throws her cup of tea on the floor. The hostess asks Mrs. Jason what she allows herself to do, and Charlotte screams and explains that they are pretending that she does not exist for them, and then turns to Inez and claims that she told everyone to ignore her and talk about things that are unfamiliar to her. The Countess says that she has no idea what she is talking about, now Baronessa, and then asks why she would act so childishly, because even if this nonsense is true, she asks if those who are here have any reason to listen to her. And at that moment, she thought that this is funny. Inez says that the reason she took the center stage so quickly was because she was introducing her to her personal acquaintances and didn't realize that it was only possible in conversations about topics she knew something about. However, she didn't want it to be that way. The Countess says that she knows that her friend lives in a world as unfeeling as she was when she had an affair with her husband, and then claims that it would be good to pretend sometimes. The landlady says that she let the Countess of Briarton in out of kindness, and then says that her appearance here today is in itself a disappointment. Charlotte says that this is not what she meant, but the Baroness does not want to hear her anymore and orders Jason to be taken out of her house. Charlotte turns to Inez and says that she will see more because she will not destroy her. The owner says that she doesn't understand what kind of person this is and thinks she's crazy. Mary asks the mistress if she is back, yet Inez asks if she was very late and made her wait, and then asks the maid why she is so upset. Mary asks the hostess for forgiveness and explains that during the day, Mrs. Charlotte came to her, looking for her, and she insulted and drove her away. But she believes that this lady was a friend of the hostess, and therefore asks for forgiveness for being so impolite, and then says that she will accept any punishment. Hearing this, Inez hugged the maid and said that she should ask for forgiveness because she believed that the person who cared about her so much was very close, but she did not notice and spent her life trying to keep up with the attention of other people. The main character says that her deeds were the most important thing, and she is so stupid that she couldn't even properly thank those who were always there and supported her. The maid informs the mistress that during her absence she received a letter. Hearing this, the lady is surprised and asks from whom. She replies that from the Duke of Sussex and from His Excellency. The king asks his younger brother what he is thinking about, so much as if he is not talking to him. He replies that it is nothing special, but the master doubts and claims that it does not look like that. Enoch explains that he said that it was nothing special, and then asks why he is picking on him, and also asks if he wants a specific answer. Edward smiled and said that he even talks to the king like that. Now, the guy explains that this is a private conversation, and therefore believes that now he is just a brother to him. His Majesty asks why his brother is so sensitive, and then asks if it is for the Countess of Briarton. Enoch says that there is nothing wrong with that. The older brother asks why he is so unhappy then, and whether it is because the recipient did not respond to his passionate letter, and at that moment he thought that he wanted to tease, but it seems that is how it is. At this time, the guy thought that during the last meeting, it seemed that the Countess was uncomfortable being with him, and although the portrait was only a reason for the meeting, the Countess could refuse to paint it at any time. The young gentleman understands that if this happens, then seeing the Countess will become much more difficult. At this time, the Queen comes to them and then asks for forgiveness for being late and asks if they discussed anything interesting. She also asks what they talked about. The king explains that they were talking about the Countess of Briarton. Helena says that lately, wherever you look, everyone is talking about the Countess. Then she turns to the Duke and says that she has a big favor to ask of him, and asks if he will do her a favor. Her Majesty says that soon she and Calderoff will organize an exhibition on international exchange. Calderoff, the country had been at war and making peace with Lancaster for a long time. Historians called the longest war the 100 Years' War. At the end of the 100 Years' War, the countries exchanged delegations to establish friendly relations. The King of Lancaster, who participated in the conclusion of peace, was a great admirer of art. Lancaster therefore quickly became a place where artists interacted under the auspices of the royal family. This was the beginning of international exchange exhibitions. Of course, now they have turned into a field of hostility between two states about which country will show itself better at the exhibition. The Duke says that as far as he knows, there have been no exhibitions in recent years, and he wonders if there is any reason to hold one this year. The Queen explains that in the eyes of other countries, although the last generation has become a little less noticeable, Lancaster still remains a conservative country, relying on the aristocracy. Helen argues that the world is changing, and the times of closed doors and closed discussions are ending, as the era of the young and ambitious is coming. Her Majesty says Lancaster needs to change its conservative ways in the face of this new era, and she believes the International Exchange Exhibition will be a great place to demonstrate this. The Queen says it will be a cultural event that will shake up the whole country, and that is why she is counting on Elton's help. Enoch asks if he can recommend an artist. Hearing this, the Queen was surprised, and then asked if the Duke of Sussex himself recommended the artist, and she wondered who it was. The young gentleman replies that it is Countess Briarton, and he assures that her talents and taste are unusually good. And then he says that among all the artists who participated in the exchange exhibitions, there was not a single woman, and he thinks that then this will become a mockery of Calderoff. Her Majesty says that this will be enough to suppress the indignation of the artistic community, since she considers the Countess an exceptional artist. The King says that this is excellent, and in that case he leaves the arrangements for the exhibition. To them, Enoch thanks them and then declines. Her Majesty turns to her husband and says that this is a fresh idea, because she believes that he was worried and thought over every action he took in the palace, with a perpetually confused expression on his face. The king says he's never heard his brother speak so enthusiastically about anyone, and he thinks his always apologetic little brother has grown up to be such a wonderful man. Helena says that they don't know the Duke's feelings, so she suggests simply supporting him. When the main character received the letter from His Excellency, she thought that she couldn't avoid him forever. She thinks that it's her problem and that she's careful around him, and it would seem strange if she constantly avoided him because he didn't do anything wrong. The butler came into the room and apologized, then announced that he had brought the documents she had asked for. He asked what had made her interested in the budget reports. The lady replies that she is thinking of getting rid of the rat holes because she believes that all the investments that Ryan made as the head of the family, he wasted the wealth of the Briarton family on his unprofitable businesses. The main character believes that this is too much of a sum for alimony, and therefore she will try to get this investment back. When Ryan was sitting in the buffet, he heard other people talking about how he had lost his property and his earldom, and had been expelled from the earl's estate. He was very angry because he did not understand what he had done to deserve such treatment. Viscount Gott understood that the wealth and reputation of the count were in his hands, and he did not understand why Inez would change so quickly. The men approached Ryan and said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and then said that judging by the look of him, he was having a hard time right now. Another man says he thought the Viscount couldn't bear the shame of the divorce and committed suicide, and then asks if he's wrong. The gentleman says that in all of Lancaster, he is the only one who is divorced and a complete loser. Hearing this, Ryan objects and screams, saying that he crawled at his feet when he was the Earl of Briarton, and then grabs him by the shirt. The man says that it is true, and then hits him in the face, and says that it was exactly like that when he was the Earl of Briarton, and then claims that now he is nothing. The gentleman asks how many tears Baroness Jason shed because he seduced her first, and she did not resist because she did not know what to do. Ryan was surprised to hear this, and the man said that wherever he goes now, everyone talks about it and wonders if he knew. At this time, the Viscount thought that Charlotte was already annoyed by the fact that because of her, he divorced Inez, and she was also spreading this outrageous lie behind his back. Ryan leaves, and the man asks where he is going, and then asks if he ran to beg the Countess to take him back. Walking down the street, the Viscount says that his face hurts, and his lip is also cracked. Suddenly, someone grabbed him by the shoulder, and when he turned around, he saw his older brother. The brother wondered what he was doing, and how he even got to the point of divorce. Ryan says he's stopped asking questions because he's already crushed. The gentleman says he's nuts and asks if he's realized the whole situation. Then he says that today, the Briarton family announced they were withdrawing all investment in their family business. The Viscount says the business is already going down the drain, and then asks what will happen without investment, because he thinks the Gotts will end up on the street. He asks how Ryan could have let this happen. The older brother asks who could have thought that he would get divorced, and also wonders how he could have driven such a docile woman to the point that she demanded a divorce. Ryan asks what to do now, and suggests that they follow the developments since the whole country is now interested in divorces. The gentleman says that he can send a gift to his wife and thereby cheer her up. The next day, the maids show the lady a teddy bear, and she asks in surprise if it is a gift from Viscount Gott. The maid says that he said that he personally chose it for her. Inez thought that the withdrawal of investments had scared him quite a bit, and that he thought it was just nonsense that he had chosen it himself. And she wondered if men thought that women would only need toys to be happy. The lady offers the maids to take this bear for themselves and do with it whatever she wants. Hearing this, the maids were happy and thanked the lady. The main character remembered that Mary had told her to take a walk a long time ago, and it seemed that she gave her strength. The lady understands that the work on the portrait of His Excellency is almost finished, but she believes that it needs to be completed, although it is a pity that on the other hand, it is a relief. After all, getting closer to His Highness will only be harmful because of all the problems. Inez understands that the carriage has arrived and that these meetings will end today, and when she arrived in the main hall, she realized that His Highness had not yet appeared. The girl thought that if you look from this angle, it is the same angle in which she found Ryan and Charlotte. And she understands that this is exactly the place that is full of colors, and the people are also delightfully colorful. The main character thought that the very thought of this place made her shudder, but now it makes her smile, and therefore she thinks it surprising, because the only thing that has changed is the person she meets there. Enoch greeted the lady and said that he had something to say. Today, she asked what exactly. The gentleman says that he didn't sleep all night and was worried that the portrait would turn out badly. Hearing this, the main character wondered if he was making fun of her right now, and then she suggested that he not worry, because His Excellency, even if he hadn't slept all night, he was still handsome. Inez reports that the work on the portrait is almost finished, and she only has to finish the details, and she thinks that he will no longer have to bother visiting her studio. Enoch says that it turns out that today was their last meeting. The main character says that although the work is not finished, she asks if he wants to look at the painting. He replies that he will put it off until it is finished, and then asks the Countess if she was ever given a box of chocolates with nuts and fruits with various fillings inside as a child. Inez says that she knows because she also received such candies as a child, and her favorite flavor was chocolate candies with caramel filling. The gentleman says that his mother allowed him to eat only one candy a day. Hearing this, the main character thought that His Excellency was talking about such personal things for the first time. Enoch asks her what she thinks he ate first. She asks if his favorites were the caramel ones, and he replies that on the contrary, he ate the caramel-filled ones last, and even waiting to eat them was fun. The Duke says that for him, her painting is like these caramel candies, because he likes to just wait, and so he would like to enjoy it a little longer. The Countess says that his words make her happy, and then suggests that they finish for today, as she needs to visit the art store because she has run out of drawing materials. Enoch says that there is nothing to be done then, and he wants to go with her. The young gentleman says that he hasn't been there for a long time, and the street is as busy as before. Inez asks the Duke why he went with her. He asks if she forgot that she owed him dinner. At that moment, the girl thought that he had joked, and she had not taken it seriously at the time. The Duke asks what she is doing. At this time, the lady thought that she had decided to break off relations with His Excellency. The girl says that they need to hurry to buy everything they need and make it to dinner. Inez looked at her notes and said that they still needed to buy paint from Mrs. Land's workshop. Seeing the lady, the saleswoman says in surprise that she is the Countess of Briarton, and the lady says that she must have already seen the article in Elton, and then suggests calling her Inez as before, since she wants to be her friend. And the Duke suggests calling him Mr. Enoch as before. The young gentleman was surprised that there was a restaurant in such a place, and the girl explained that Miss Land told her about this place. Inez asks if this is unexpected, and then says that she is actually a little worried because he only goes to elite restaurants. He says that he will not deny it, but he will like anywhere as long as the Countess of Brighton is with him. Hearing this, the main character does not understand where he learned such shameless words. His Excellency says that when they met in the morning, he couldn't tell her everything he wanted to, and now it seems that for some time they won't be able to see each other. And then it is reported that soon there will be an exchange exhibition with the Kingdom of Calderoff, and a really big event will be held. The girl asks in surprise if he is talking about the exchange exhibition. He says that this event is organized by Her Majesty the Queen, and he decided to help her. Hearing this, the main character thought that thank God they would not be able to see each other only temporarily. And at this time she realized that she should not react like that, because today is their last meeting, and she had already decided that she would keep her distance from His Excellency. Inez doesn't understand why she keeps clinging to him. and then asks if this is the exchange exhibition that took place many years ago, and as far as she remembers, the last time it was held in Calderoff. The gentleman says that this is so, and the result of Lancaster was not very good, because their delegation returned home, amazed by the free atmosphere of Calderoff's work, and such a blow to pride served as an impetus for the foundation of the Royal Society of Artists. Inez says that he must be very busy, and then asks to let her know if she can help with anything, since she doesn't mind at all, because His Excellency helped her a lot. Enoch says that it is. At this time the waiter asks if they are ready to order. The gentleman says that they have not decided yet, and the man says that they cook delicious salmon on the grill in their restaurant. After a while they were brought the order, and Enoch was surprised and asked if it was all for one person. The lady explains that this is a restaurant that is mostly visited by artists who do not have much savings. Inez smiled and then apologized because it was a little unusual for her to see such an expression on his face, because His Excellency usually does not change his facial expression, and sometimes he is angry, puzzled, sad, and then she apologizes for this misunderstanding. The gentleman explains that he is actually a more emotional person than she thinks, especially when he is with her. Enoch claims that the Street of Artists is a very strange place, and it seemed to him that the art of Lancaster belongs exclusively to the upper class, and ordinary people do not even have access to receiving an art education. The girl says that so many like-minded artists have gathered on this street, and it is surprising, but she thinks that they are not necessarily united by a common origin. The lady says that commoners like her, being a girl, did not receive a proper education, and believes that perhaps this is why people like them cannot be stopped from wanting to draw. Ines asks why they don't have an exhibition of artists on this street, because she thinks it would be a shame to miss such an opportunity. The main character says that everyone has the desire to enjoy art, regardless of social status, but ordinary people very rarely get such a chance. The Countess claims that if the exchange exhibition is designed as a festival on the Street of Artists, and it can be visited not only by aristocrats, but also by ordinary people, then she asks if this is true. The lady says that this format will help to suppress the belief that Lancaster's art is old-fashioned, considering it a revenge match for losing the last exhibition. And thanks to the flow of visitors, the profits of the shops on the Street of Artists will increase. And she asks if this is not a good thing. Inez understands that there may be resistance from residents, but it can be mitigated with appropriate compensation. The main character thinks that it is worth establishing reasonable compensation for the shop owners, and asks how about the artists from here participating in the exchange exhibition. And at that time she thought that she was so excited that she overdid it. The gentleman says that it is not a bad idea, because the Street of Artists is a place worth spending money on. She thanks him for his words. Enoch reports that he cannot say anything for sure, yet because he must first discuss everything with Her Majesty the Queen. The Duke thanks the lady and says that she has come up with a really fresh idea, and it will be a great help. When the lady said goodbye, the Duke thought that he would like to meet her like this again. The main character thought that the work on the portrait was almost finished, and she would no longer be able to meet him in person, and she was sad about it again, and thought that it was useless to think about it. After some time, she received an unexpected invitation. Queen Helena wrote that she would like to have a cup of tea with her alone. The girl was surprised to hear this. The butler announces that Countess Inez Briarton has arrived. At this time, the girl thought that she really had arrived at the palace alone. The queen says she wishes to appoint the Countess of Briarton to the exchange and exhibition delegation, because she believes that with her dazzling artistic talent, she hopes the lady will join them so that Lancastrian art can continue to develop and rise to new heights. The main character thought that this was a great opportunity to restore her reputation, which had been damaged by all the events with her ex-husband. And she doesn't understand why Her Majesty the Queen chose her. Enoch turns to the Countess and says that they have met again. At this time she thought that with this meeting, they obviously decided to test her. Inez asks how he is, and the gentleman replies that he is fine. The lady asks if he knows why she was appointed a delegate to the exchange exhibition. The gentleman asks if she is uncomfortable because of this, and the girl says that it is a great honor for her. Hearing this, the queen says that she is also glad. But if the countess does not want this, and she forces her, then she should apologize. The lady says she is glad to meet, and then suggests going into the room and talking. Like a torch, lighting the night in Lancaster, the noble Queen Helena. However, the real Queen Helena was very different from such a nickname. The woman says she has heard that the Queen is actively trying to change the closed atmosphere and politics in Lancaster. The main character thought that it was a great honor for her to drink tea with such a person. The Queen says that she heard that the Countess suggested a great idea for the exhibition. The young lady does not understand how much time has passed since they talked about it. The Countess says that she likes the format of an exchange exhibition, in which everyone, regardless of background, can freely participate, because she thinks it would be nice to make an exhibition like that. The Queen asks how they could refuse such a good idea, and then says that she personally appointed her as a member of the delegation because she understands that wealth alone is not enough, and after all, she thought that this was a good opportunity to demonstrate their artistic talent. Her Majesty says that, to be honest, she even envies her a little, the Countess. And then she says that the Archduke of Sussex praised her greatly and said that she is very talented and an artist, so she definitely needs to be sent to the exhibition. Enoch blushed and said that he had said nothing but the truth, and then asked if anyone was against it, and claimed that he had no intention of denying that the Countess was a wonderful artist. The main character understands that His Excellency is involved in this matter. The Queen says that in any case she wanted to see you today, and the details will be discussed separately in the near future. She wishes you luck in the exchange exhibition. Inez thanks Her Majesty for the opportunity. The Queen says that she will finish their tea party with this, as the Duke is very busy preparing and will not disturb him, and then turns to Enoch and says that His Majesty has been looking for him. The Duke says he doesn't think it's that urgent, and Helena says he said he wanted to talk to his younger brother today and even postponed the government meeting. Enoch wished the lady a good time and then left. Her Majesty says that he had such a look of regret on his face, and then asks the Countess if they will have tea together. The lady says that it is a great honor for her. Helena thought about how, when she first saw Countess Inez Briarton, and when she first met her at a social event, she thought that she was a weak lady, and now she wondered how much the atmosphere around her had changed. Her Majesty wondered if this change in the Countess's character had attracted the Archduke of Sussex, and if she thought she should help them both. The Queen says that, as she said earlier, the Archduke really does think highly of her. Inez asks in surprise why she thinks so. Helena believes that the Countess has feelings for the Archduke, and then she says that this is the first time she will see the Archduke care about someone so much. Inez says that she thought he was kind from the beginning, and the Queen suggests that maybe others will never know why the Archduke is the owner of Elton and what he sacrificed for his elder brother, His Majesty the King. The Queen says that if she doesn't mind, they can talk about the Archduke's past. Then she says that from a young age, the second prince was an outstanding child, so much so that he threatened the first prince's right of succession. Many people were ready to follow him, and at least the Archduke, whom they and His Majesty only knew, was a child who was afraid that he would be hated. When Enoch turned 8, the teacher said that he had nothing more to teach him. Hearing this, the boy wondered if his brother would praise him too. The boy saw that the Parliament session had already ended, and the man asked if it was too early to appoint Edward as the crown prince, and he thought that these nobles were crazy because something needed to be discussed separately in the palace, and then asked if he was the only one who thought so. The minister says that everyone is blaming Prince Enoch, and he says that, of course, Prince Edward is also talented, but he cannot be compared to Prince Enoch. The gentleman says that he is very sorry that he is just talking, and thinks that at this time it would be worthwhile to strengthen the royal power, and then asks if it is not too late to make Enoch the crown prince. The boy thought that it was not always good to be outstanding, and at that time the voices of those who wanted to become the crown prince of the second prince sounded louder and louder. Of course, the previous king and queen did not want to sow discord between the princes, and they were determined to have the current king ascend the throne. The ceremony was held as planned. The prince says that he is not interested in the title of crown prince, and therefore now his brother will have no reason to hate him. However, even after the inauguration of the crown prince, the interests of some did not disappear so easily. The second prince had to give up his beloved fencing, because rumors began that he was preparing an assassination attempt on the crown prince. The nannies and teachers kept changing because they tried to instill strange ideas into the second prince. And after such suffering, he suffered again, and several years passed since everything calmed down. Finally, the Duke of Sussex grew up to be an open and caring person, and eventually he became the owner of Elton. The Queen says he did it to show his indifference to the throne. Her Majesty reports that in fact, since he became interested in Elton, he has fewer close people and at least fewer political figures. Helena thinks that maybe this is the case, even if he pretends that he is not a duke, but he really values Elton. And then she says that this newspaper has repeatedly published articles about the Countess, and asks if it made her angry. The Queen reports that only articles based on solid evidence were published, and does this fact not give the Duke of Sussex reason to consider her Countess a sensible person? After all, she believes so. Her Majesty reports that she does not yet know what this means, whether she has any special plans, and thought that the Duke is very polite and impeccable with everyone. But this politeness is to some extent a huge wall with which he has fenced himself off from everyone. Helena thinks that he made a calculation to complicate the situation without letting anyone know his weak points. I think that this may not work at all, because the Countess of Briarton is truly an outstanding artist. The Queen muses that perhaps he too will be able to express his emotions quite well when he is around the Countess. And then she says that she did not want to burden her, but since the Duke has rather high expectations of her, she wanted her to know that her expectations are high. The main character claims that she wants to live up to His Excellency's expectations for his faith in her because she wants to see His Excellency's happy smile. Inez states that she will try not to disappoint His Excellency and Her Majesty, and therefore will do everything in her power. Walking down the corridor, the lady wonders whether she said something stupid because she was nervous. Suddenly, a man grabs her hand and asks if she is by chance the Countess of Briarton. Seeing him, Inez remembered Helena's words that it didn't matter that it was the Queen's order to appoint her as the exhibition manager. It was a rather unusual beginning, and therefore some managers were not too happy with this decision. Among them, the one who has the highest opinion is the head of the Royal Association of Artists, Marquis Usher. He is the one who is most dissatisfied with the appointment of the exhibition manager. The gentleman says that he never thought that he would meet a lady in such a place, and then asks how she is doing and what business she has come to the palace for. Inez replies that she has come to greet the Queen after being appointed manager of the exchange exhibition. Asher says he is so glad that outstanding artists like her will be working for the glory of their country. Hearing this, the main character thought that he was more pleasant than she expected. The gentleman says that he kept such a busy lady for so long, and then suggests that she take care of herself and leaves. The head of the Royal Association smiled and said that being appointed to such a position by the Queen is like receiving a parachute. And he thinks that this girl is cunning as a fox, and didn't even think that she looked so simple. The man tells the Marquise that they still need to be careful, because they don't know what aces she has up her sleeve. Asher says that with a reputation earned by the Royal Association of Artists, a woman who only arranges flowers around the house, and knows how to do it, and will not say a word against it. His Majesty asks why he is so late, and then says that he was waiting. Enoch apologized for keeping him waiting. The king asks if he is angry because he is interrupting him from meeting the countess. The young gentleman asks how he can be of service. The elder brother says that this exchange exhibition is causing his wife a lot of inconvenience, and his brother, who clearly separates private and public affairs, asked for a favor and therefore thinks that the countess looks like a fairly reliable person and asks if this is true. The Duke asks if the Queen hasn't already told him about the Countess's ideas. The King replies that she thinks these ideas are quite new and that he has never thought of holding an exchange exhibition in a place where mostly common people go. Enoch reports that he too, thanks to Graphine, visited this street for the first time and thought a lot about it because he is from the royal family and, of course, should know every corner of their country. The young gentleman says he felt that there were many places in their country that he knew nothing about. The elder brother says he must at least admit that the Countess of Briarton has a good influence on him. The king says that he was not particularly interested in the surroundings before and was not interested in anything at all, and then asks if that is not so. His Majesty reports that he always makes a stupid face whenever the Countess is mentioned. Enoch asks, since when he speaks in such simple language. The king thought that his brother was slowly realizing and thought that it was time for him to stop teasing, and then asked who else had such a generous brother. When the lady got into the carriage, Enoch decided to see her off. He says that he thought that the lady would go home straight away, and then explains that he wanted to say hello to her and asks if it was a burden to her that he spoke like that. Inez objects and says that she should have looked for him to greet him, and then reports that she was allowed to participate in the exhibition. The young gentleman claims that she was allowed to participate because she has an outstanding talent. The girl says that, however, it was His Excellency who strongly recommended her to the Queen, and she believes that if everything had been as before, she would not have achieved these goals. The main character understands that if it were Ryan, and he not only did not betray her ideas to the Queen, he would say that they belonged to him. The girl thought that she needed to stop thinking about Ryan. The young gentleman looked at the lady and wondered if she was really remembering Viscount Gott. Now, after all, he understood that not much time had passed since the divorce, and believed that it was impossible to stop remembering her ex-husband so quickly. The Duke says that in any case he was glad to talk to her again and will be glad to work together. She says that she is also looking forward to it. After a while, the headlines in Elton were full of news about the exchange exhibition with Calderoff, with the participation of the manager Countess of Briarton. Reading about this, Ryan cries out and asks how this happened. O can't believe that a woman has been appointed as the manager of a state event, and he wonders if the royal family really values Inez's talent so highly. The Viscount thought that if only he had not divorced Inez, then the fame that had now fallen on her, the respect of the royal family, and the envy of people, and all this would have been his. Ryan understands that his family's company is falling apart due to the withdrawal of investments, and because of the ruined reputation, he can't even borrow money. However, he believes that this cannot be allowed to happen, and that he needs to somehow get back together with Inez. The Viscount asks where such a rule is, since the Royal Association of Artists has always been in charge of organizing the exhibition. The man does not understand how an inexperienced countess could be put in such a position and what the Queen was thinking about. Asher suggests that we watch our words, since the right to appoint managers of the exchange exhibition belongs exclusively to the royal family, and his comment can be considered treason to the royal family. The man says that there are indeed doubts about this appointment. He thinks that it would be good if the Countess knew her place and did not interfere, and if this does not happen, then they will act as they see fit, since they understand that they do not need the exchange exhibition to go smoothly. At this time, the main character thought that it was the first organizational meeting, and everything should be perfect. When Enoch saw the lady, he asked if she was heading to a meeting. She replied that she was so worried because this was the first will and a meeting with the team that had been organizing for a long time. The gentleman asks why she should worry, since he thinks that she will do everything in the best possible way. Asher says that they are starting, and then says that as far as they know, there are less than 2 months left until the exchange exhibition with Kaldaroff, and therefore they do not have much time, and suggests that they hurry. The head of the Artists Association says that he hopes that they will do everything possible to ensure that the event goes smoothly, and then announces that this exhibition will take place. But the young lady interrupts him and says that she has a suggestion. Inez says that she thinks this exhibition should be held in the form of a festival. The lady says that in the past, exchange exhibitions have taken place in the royal court, featuring pre-selected works. The girl asks, what if they move the event to the Street of Masters, because she thinks that anyone can take part and everyone will be free to enjoy the works of art. The main character says that in this way the exhibition will become an event where everyone will not only know, but will also be able to have a good time. Hearing this, the gentleman smiled and then apologized and said that she was saying such nonsense. He believed that whatever it was, and that she was the first time on the organizing committee, she still hadn't realized that an exchange exhibition was an event that mobilized people and should generate income, and therefore he believed that this wouldn't change for a couple of days. Inez says she has already prepared a detailed plan and budget. The man asks what she is saying, because he can't even imagine how this event can take place on Masters Street, and then asks if this isn't a place for the poor. The gentleman wonders if it would be humiliating to show such a place to important foreign guests, and then says that he is somewhat disappointed. The man says the Royal Artists Association worked hard on the exchange exhibitions, but as soon as she was appointed to the organizing committee, she decided to change. The Countess says that she had no such intentions, and then asks why they are picking on her. Enoch says this year's exhibition will also be a step towards reforming Lancaster's image on the international stage, and he thinks that differences between this exhibition and previous ones are inevitable. Hearing this, the gentleman thought that the Duke had begun to help her, and he had taken her side because he represented the royal family. Inez explains that she is not saying that the exhibition format created by the association needs to be completely changed, since she believes that they will be able to come to an agreement at today's meeting. Hearing this, the man slams his hand on the table and then asks why change the format of the exhibition, which works perfectly. He claims that even without the participation of the Countess, the exhibition would have been a success. The Duke says that this is strange, and if you look at how things are going now, then at the moment the exchange exhibitions held by the association have not produced significant results, and then asks if this is true. The head of the exhibition asks if this is a statement and whether he can consider it as contempt for His Excellency's association. Asher says that he understood him perfectly, and since he is so sure of himself, he can no longer be useful. He claims that they, the Royal Association of Artists, will not take part in the exchange exhibition. The gentleman asks the Marquise Usher if everything is okay, because he cannot believe that they are leaving the organizing committee. Usher says it's a warning to the Countess of Briarton, who barged in unknowingly, and to the Duke of Sussex. He says there are about 2 weeks left until the exchange exhibition. Then he asks what the two of them will manage to do in that time, without the help of the former organizing committee members. The Marquis says that he does not envy their situation, because he believes that they will take a step back and wait for the remains of the Countess of Briarton. At this time, the young gentleman tells the Countess not to worry, because he believes that even without the Association of Artists, they will be able to organize the exhibition well. The main character thought that the association's refusal to be part of the exhibition's organizing committee meant that the association's artist members would also boycott the exhibition. Inez understands that there are only 2 weeks left before the exhibition, and believes that it will be almost impossible to persuade them to participate in the exhibition during this time. The Countess asks for forgiveness for the fact that she was given such a good chance, and she ruined everything. Enoch says that in that case he will prove to her that they can organize a great exhibition on their own, and then asks if those who left the committee did not say that they would provide any help. The gentleman claims that they will make such outstanding events that their existence will be forgotten. And besides the artists who are members of the association, Lancaster is full of other wonderful artists. The main character remembered the artists from the street of workshops and thought that they would give local artists a chance to become famous by participating in a big event. Enoch says he will take care of the external factors, and the Countess just needs to focus on the exhibition itself, and he says that urgent matters need to be dealt with first. At this time, Inez thought that she felt pressure because he cared about her so much, and therefore believed that perhaps they would be able to carry out their plans. The lady believes that then she too is obliged to do everything in her power to justify the expectations of His Majesty. Full-scale preparations for the exchange exhibition began, and the lady thought that the most important thing was to provide sufficient compensation to the residents of the workshop street. The main character understands that even though it will be rented for the festival, it is still a residential area. She believes that the exhibition should not create inconveniences for the local residents because they are obliged to create a good contender in order to rent this place again in the future if necessary. The Countess says that we need to prioritize the consent of the residents and compensation and then conduct a survey among them. And so she hired administrators because she had a lot of work. The assistant tells the lady that she has a list of artists who want to participate in the exhibition. The Countess says that she will approve the candidates after checking and thinks that the preparations are going better than she thought. Inez says that they even have unused budget funds that can be reported to the Queen. The Duke asks if the preparations are going well. The girl replies that it is thanks to him. And then she says that there are many difficulties because this is her first experience of organizing, and without his support, she would have given up long ago. Enoch asks in surprise if this is really so. The lady looks at him and thinks that he is embarrassed, and then says that she never thought that he was such a hard worker, and asks if there is anything at all that he cannot do. The gentleman asks her to stop saying such things, and the lady asks if he is completely incapable of accepting compliments. Enoch claims that everything depends on the one who gave the compliment. Hearing this, the main character laughed, and the gentleman asked in surprise if it was so funny. Inez explains that she is not laughing at him. She just found out how nice he can be. He says that this is the first time he forgives. The main character thought that at first she was very worried, but thanks to His Majesty, she managed to fulfill everything she had planned because she wants the exchange exhibition to be successful. At this time in the kingdom of Kaldorov, servants are constantly looking for the young master. Mrs. Kreha asks, "What is the matter?" The servant explains that the ship Lancaster is ready, but His Majesty is nowhere to be found. The lady screams and calls His Majesty, and also asks where he ran off to, since she believes that they really have no time now. Prince Kaldorov, Selden. Kaldorov says that he does not want to go anywhere because he thinks it is very boring there. The Queen says with delight that she has not seen such a perfect report for 100 years. The Countess says that she is too kind, but Her Majesty objects and claims that she is not, since she believes that the two of them have really done an excellent job. The Duke asks, what about the Royal Artists Association? Helena explains that this was an unexpected turn of events, as they thought they could control the organizing committee completely if they declared a full-scale boycott. Her Majesty says that everything did not go as they planned, because they protested day and night, and of course, she does not intend to take the side of these infantile artists. Inez understands that she needs to be tough. The Queen suggests that they watch together and then asks if they have already found partners for the banquet. The exchange exhibition is a 3-day event that ends with a banquet held at the Royal Palace. The main character says that she is so embarrassed because she was only busy preparing the event. The Queen says that in this case they can go to the banquet together as partners. She thought that since they are the organizers of this exhibition, it will be easier if they go to the banquet together. At this time, the young lady does not understand what to do, because she could not even imagine that she would be invited in such a way. She understands that His Excellency looks shocked. Enoch turns to the Countess and says that Her Majesty's offer to go to the banquet with her cannot be refused, but if she is not satisfied with it, then she should not be afraid to refuse. Inez thanks him for his concern and says that she understood that he meant His Excellency, and then says that everything is fine. She will go with him as a partner. Since it was the Queen herself who suggested it, it is necessary for the success of the exchange exhibition, and it is really very rational. The young gentleman says that it is good that she accepted the offer for the sake of the success of the exhibition, and the lady claims that this is exactly the case. Enoch says he's glad she agreed to go with him, and so suggests they return to the office and finish preparing for the exhibition. At this time, the main character thought that doubts tormented the heart because it was the Queen's own proposal, and she believes that she did not use this as a reason to accept the proposal and go with him. The Kaldaroff delegation arrived in Lankaras Kreha, thanked His Majesty for the invitation. He says that there were rumors that the prince himself would be in the delegation this time, but he sees that no one there looks like a prince. The lady says that it was just a rumor, and at this time does not understand where His Excellency the Prince is, because she prevented him from running. I made him board a ship to Lancaster, but the young gentleman ran away immediately as they arrived at the port. Inez is lying on the artist's street, whether everything is ready for tomorrow's exhibition. But suddenly she sees a bunch of people and doesn't understand what all the noise is about. The prince says that this paint dries completely in the light, and then he draws on paper and offers to look. The man was surprised because the color changed and said that he did not know that this was a paint with such an effect, and returned us the warehouse, saying that the pigment is very weak. Selden wonders if the seller didn't tell him how to use this paint before selling it, and then asks what this simple stroke is. He offers to exchange it all for goods from Kaldaroff. Inez asks if he is from the Kaldaroff delegation, and says that she is pleased to meet him, as she heard that the delegation arrived this morning, and she did not expect him to start inspecting the venue so immediately. The young gentleman asks if this is the location of the exhibition, and also wonders if this year's exhibition is not at the Royal Palace. The lady replies that this year they decided to change the organization of the exhibition, and judging by his words, he is well versed in art, and therefore hopes that he will like the event. The prince says the atmosphere here is different from the Lancaster shows he has heard about before. The lady says that although he is not an admirer of Lancaster's modest art, she hopes that he will like its elegance. The king and queen welcomed the delegation. Kreha thanked His Royal Majesty for the invitation. The king says that they are happy to be the organizers of the exhibition, which promotes peaceful cooperation between their countries. The Queen says they may well change their specific expectations for this year's show, as they recognize it will be very different to previous ones. The representative of the delegation says that if His Majesty says so, then they are eagerly awaiting the start of the exhibition, and the Queen invites them to go to the apartments prepared for them. At this time, the main character asks in surprise in what sense it is boring, and also wonders if he is talking about their art. The young gentleman asks in surprise if this is not so, and then says that if you look at modern paintings, the outdated style of Lancaster painting is naturally perceived as a relic of the past. Inez claims that the Lancaster style is attractive due to its elegance conveyed by pastel shades, and this is called classic, and then asks if this means that Lancaster is boring. The young gentleman claims that in painting a combination of bright colors and intense brushstrokes is necessary as in the art of Kaldaroff. The lady suggests not to argue, but to see everything tomorrow at the exhibition. After all, on the Street of Masters, where the exhibition is held, they will meet a huge number of artists. Sheldon says he doesn't have time to see the sights. Hearing this, she asks in surprise if he didn't come to the exhibition. However, the man remained silent in response. At this time the girl left, and the young gentleman thought that in Lancaster, everyone had problems with their heads. A few days ago, the young gentleman asked his father why he should go to Lancaster. King Demos asks if he is comfortable living there. After Edward was crowned, the foundation of Lancaster was shaken, since many nobles wanted to see Enoch, the king's younger brother, as king. Demos believes that it goes without saying that he has no claims to the throne. But he believes that now the king needs to strengthen his power, because those who wanted to see Enoch as king could rebel. The prince asks what's wrong with Togo. The father asks his son to go and take a closer look at the king, because he is interested in whether King Edward controls his country so well, and whether Enoch is really not interested in the throne. The king thinks there may be some internal forces holding back the split. The prince asks if he is specifically talking about the internal conflict in Lancaster. His Majesty explains that he could reignite the century-old war with Calderoff, and so he sends his son on a mission to take a good look at Lancaster. The father says that Sheldon is the most selfish of his children, and then asks if he is not a member of the royal family. The prince says that he will carry out his orders. The king asks his son if he is still interested in painting. He replies that he is not interested, and his father says that this is the work of artists and suggests that he no longer be distracted from his duties as a member of the royal family as he was in childhood. At this time, the young master thought that the full-scale exhibition would begin tomorrow, and he would start by looking at the king's handsome face. Enoch asks the countess where she has been, as he was worried. The lady apologizes and explains that she was doing a final inspection of the Alley of the Masters. He says that it is good that there are no problems left, and the delegation has arrived safely and been accommodated in the apartments. Hearing this, the main character thought that the guy she met might also be from the delegation. After all, his expressions were somewhat harsh, but he seems to be really interested in painting and loves the style of Calderoff. The lady turns to His Excellency and suggests that this year's exhibition be made terribly interesting. And after all the hard work, the opening of the exchange exhibition is tomorrow. The king greeted the representatives of Calderoff and said that he was glad that this year the exchange ceremony for the king took place as usual. At this time, the prince opened his mouth wide, and Mrs. Creha asked what His Majesty was doing. Sheldon said that no one had seen him anyway, and then suggested not to call him that because he believed that rumors would spread that he was a prince. The young gentleman says that he actually doesn't want anyone to find out about this ahead of time, and suggests that it would be better to tell her what the atmosphere was like in the palace where she was yesterday. Creha says that because of the upcoming ceremony, some people's opinions were divided, and several people from the aristocracy left the management group. The prince asks in surprise if the king himself appoints this group. She replies that this is true, but because of the queen, apparently someone undesirable was appointed. Sheldon asks if they still failed to comply with the royal decree, and also asks if there are reasons she cannot voice. The lady says that she personally sees it this way, since they do not fear King Edward's wife as much as they do her. The king proposes to raise glasses and begin a ceremony for peace between the two countries. When Inez saw the prince, she asked in surprise if he was the same young man with yesterday's delegation. He said that she was crazy. The lady says that she is Countess Inez, responsible for the management group. The gentleman asks if that is why she was so active when it came to the artists. Having answered this, she does not understand why such arrogance. The countess says that yesterday she thought he was knowledgeable about art, and therefore hopes that he will like today's visit. She asks how to address him. The gentleman replies that she can just call him Sheldon. The main character reports that they are almost there, and beyond this bridge, you can see the main street where the festival is opening. The prince asks in surprise if they had planned to rent the entire street and organize an exhibition on it, and the man from the delegation says that he didn't even think that there were such places in Lancaster. Inez says it's too early to be surprised because this is only the beginning of the art trail. She says that the works of new Lancaster artists are displayed all along the street, and they can take their time to look at them following a guide. The gentleman says he was looking forward to this exhibition, as the Queen said she would visit it and thinks it looks like an innovation in Lancaster. At this time, the main character thought that they were trying to please all the people from Kaldorov with their freedom-loving nature at this festival. The prince says that this is a nice assortment and thinks that this is an excellent exhibition, and the lady asks what he is saying and reminds that she is the organizer. At this time, Enoch was watching them. Sheldon asks the lady to take him out and says that she is so picky, and he is also a representative. Hearing this, the lady thought that it was arrogant because she didn't ask, because he seemed to be avoiding a conversation about status. The status allows one of the aristocracy of Kaldorov to behave outside all norms as Krehi, and the main character understands that he is definitely an unusual character, and this will become a matter for the country, and then agrees. The young gentleman asks if he can go with them and says that he is manager Enoch. He says that a tour has already been prepared for the other representatives and asks if the two of them would like to walk with them. Kreha says that he is the King of Lancaster. Sheldon agrees and thanks him for this offer. At this time, the main character thought that she had a lot of worries, but it seems that everyone is enjoying themselves, so she is happy. Sheldon says it's a very good exhibition. Enoch thinks he's exaggerating, but the gentleman objects and assures him that he's speaking honestly. The prince says that given what he heard, he thinks it was not easy for them at first, and also wonders if the Queen carefully chose the managers, after all, to boycott an exhibition for the king, knowing that there was a strict selection, and he was probably very worried, and asks if that is not so. Enoch replies that it was not as difficult as he imagines, because the Countess of Briarton, who was chosen, is a very capable person. Kreha asks if this is the main square. Inez explains that this place is planned so that artists can paint right there, and she thought that many of the paintings are already finished and look interesting. Enoch asks the lady if she wants to draw herself. She asks in surprise what he is saying because she thinks she is the staff, and he says that this tragedy. The Earl asks if it would not be a great omission for the state if its best artist were to be busy with government and not show himself in the best light. And he, as a member of the Lancaster family and also the Earl's sponsor, asks her to paint it. At this time, the main character thought that the wall was already painted over, but she saw that the artist had spilled the paint and did not want to paint on this wall anymore. At this time, the prince thought that someone who has not encountered such a thing might perceive it in their own way and doubt its true meaning. Enoch says that sometimes when he meets such people, he involuntarily wonders if he is the kind of person they are talking about. The young gentleman also recalls that when he was a boy, he was told that King Enoch was better in the art of the sword, and this was not too strong in relation to the current king. The Duke looked at the Countess and understood that no matter what anyone said around her, what was important was what she felt inside. At this time, people were surprised because the managing Countess of Briarton painted a waterfall. The girl asks the boys if they want to try drawing, and they agree. She says that there are enough materials and therefore suggests that they wait in line and not rush. Suddenly, the boy starts crying, and the lady asks what happened. He explains that he wanted to draw a butterfly, but he got something else. Inez says that his drawing looks like a caterpillar, and it hasn't grown up yet, and is waiting to be reborn as a butterfly. And then she suggests drawing wings and trying to do it together. The boy says with delight that now this is a butterfly, and another boy comes up to her and asks her to also correct his drawing, since he also can't do it. The main character thought about the fact that the guys on the street of artists at such a young age have an interest in art, and she wondered if all of them would become artists. The lady understands that ordinary children have financial problems even before they reach adulthood, and they cannot even get a proper education, and their talents are wasted within these walls. On the last night of the exhibition, the street walk ended and the final festival banquet began. The queen says that before they begin, he will tell everyone present about the people who arranged this exhibition and illuminated it with their light. Her Majesty offers a round of applause to these two people who have worked day and night for the festival. At this time, the Countess thought that her heart was beating, like the first time she was recognized at a large art exhibition. She understands that if it were not for His Excellency, she would never have experienced this feeling in her life. Enoch thanked Her Highness and said that he was embarrassed that she mentioned her together with the Countess, and then said that this exhibition was entirely the idea of the Countess of Briarton, and he only helped her develop this idea. The Lord says that the brightest rising star of Lancaster is the Countess of Briarton. The king wishes everyone to enjoy the banquet. The aristocrat says he is very impressed with how she has organized the exhibition, and then asks where she usually gets inspiration for her work. At this time, the young lady was embarrassed that she was receiving so much attention for the first time, and then she said that she would go powder her nose. When Inez went out onto the balcony, she thought that she was very grateful, but she felt awkward receiving so much attention, and she was tired of talking. Sheldon asks if she knows what a rumination is, and then says that she follows him. Lady explains that it was an accident. Inez asks him if he is going to the banquet hall because he thinks the event is in full swing. He replies that he doesn't want to see all the banquets in this country are so grand, and he is bored. Sheldon says it was a joke, and he enjoyed both the banquets and the exhibition. Then he asks if the Countess is not busy if she can talk to him. The prince tells her that he wanted to apologize to her because he had been causing her a lot of trouble from the beginning. He explains that it was not her or the festival that was the cause, and that he had apparently been bothering her for personal reasons. Hearing this, the main character thought that surprisingly he thinks rationally, and then asks if there is a reason for this, and which is connected with fine art. The prince asks her in surprise why she thinks so. The lady explains that when they first met, he was the one who showed the seller how to use Kaldorf paints, and how he showed his interest in this at the festival. So she thought that he was either very interested in this topic, or he paints himself. At this time, the gentleman thought that this was indeed the case, and he could not resist his father for long. The Countess says she heard that in Kaldorf, everyone is interested in art. He says his father values the family business more than all that, and thinks that maybe that's why she and other artists who freely express their talent in a desirable place, and he envied everyone without knowing it. Sheldon says that looking at her, he considers himself dependent on his father and feels even more pathetic. And then he says that he envies the fact that she can be sincerely proud of herself. At this time, the main character thought that in reality, she lived without even imagining herself in such a sphere. And then she says that the past, her was weak and dependent on the environment, and did not even know what she wanted to do, and lived only with the goal of appearing selfless for someone. Layadi reports that after that life, she only knows those who left behind regret, and therefore now she no longer wants to live and be someone's shadow. Inez suggests that the gentleman should not give up his favorite business because of something like this and live a life that is not his own for someone else. The main character thought that it would be good if she understood this in her past life. She believes that she could change a lot, but now we can say that this was her chance in a new life. The lady wondered what she could do with such an opportunity. Then she said that she was planning to return and asked what about him. The prince says that he will not go because he has already had enough fun. When the Countess entered the hall, she thought that the music had changed and the ball would soon begin. His Majesty asks if she will dance with him on dance. He wonders where she went because he was worried that his partner had disappeared. The young gentleman shakes the girl's hand and asks if she will give him the honor of being her dance partner. She agrees, and then they begin to dance. Another cheerful composition on the street of arts, dizzying views, and also a gentleman looking at her affectionately, and she was having fun. When the music ended, the butler called the master. He apologized to the people and said that he would be away for a short while. A man asks the Countess of Briarton if she will give him one dance. She replies that she does not dance anymore. He asks why she will not even dance with him now. Before the ball, the older brother hit Ryan. He asks in surprise why Hyun hits him like that. He says that his younger brother is crazy because his wife pocketed absolutely all the money intended for the Got Viscounts. Hyun screams and says that they can move to the street right now. Then he asks if the maids aren't sorting out the gifts for this girl and wonders what happened that made her so awful. Ryan replies that he doesn't know anything, and his brother tells him to come to his senses because they can still solve everything. He says that an exhibition from the Emperor is opening soon, and they also received an invitation, although only one. Hyun tells him to find his wife there and to beg on his knees for forgiveness, but to return her, and then he remembers that she was grieving for him at one time. The brother says that if he misses even this chance, their family will come to an end. At this time, Ryan says that he heard that his wife contributed to this event, and he is glad that she will be able to reveal her skills at the festival, because the queen must be beautiful in everything. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what nonsense he is talking about, because the fact that she was unable to reveal the talent of an artist in herself is all because he blocked her path. Inez knows there are a lot of prying eyes there, and she won't raise her voice. Ryan asks if she was happy with the gift they sent her last time. Lady understands that this is a reaction, and Ryan has thought everything through as usual. However, she thinks that it is better for him to stop dreaming. The main character says that she should have handed it over earlier, but she completely forgot with all her business, and then orders them to bring the documents that she left in the storage place. Hearing this, Ryan was surprised. He became interested in what could be shown in their relationship. And is she really going to give the Gots some freedom? And he thinks that she hasn't changed a bit. After all, she hasn't given up on him yet. The Viscount believes that since he doesn't do everything according to her script, she can most likely try to get him back with some kind of show like a divorce suit. Inez invites him to take a look, and he says that it is such a valuable document. But when he reads it, he is surprised because the orphanage thanks the Gott family for the donation and gives their word that its funds will go to caring for the children. Ryan asks in surprise if this is a confirmation of a donation. She explains that this pile of gifts were sent by the Goths, and she gave them all to the maids because she believes that there is a limit to everything, and her palace simply does not need it. The lady informs him that she has donated the entire sum of the gifts given to him on behalf of the Gott Viscounts, and then she thanks him for participating with her in this useful work. Ryan asks what this means, surprised, because he thinks she has accepted everything. Inez claims that they are not in a close relationship to give each other gifts, and then leaves. But suddenly, her ex-husband grabs her hand and screams, saying that he was wrong and has already apologized so many times. She asks in surprise if he has gone crazy. The Viscount apologizes and says that this time he will definitely become a decent husband, and then asks if this is why she filed the lawsuit. The main character says that since this is how it happened, she will clarify the situation right now, and then says that she was disgusted to be his wife, and therefore believes that there is no need to try to say anything about reunification or other nonsense. Inez says that the only way for her to find happiness is to never cross paths with him again. Hearing this, Ryan raises his hand to hit her. Enoch grabbed the Viscount's hand and asked what he should understand by this. Ryan screams and says his wrist hurts and asks to let go. The gentleman asks why he should, and then says he never listened to her or appreciated her and doesn't understand why he should treat him with respect. The Viscount screams and says that he too received an invitation and claims that his actions can be equated to an insult to his family. Enoch says he doesn't remember inviting any rude people here who were planning to resort to violence. At this time, the surprised aristocrats say that he wanted to raise his hand against the Countess and also know that he got divorced. Ryan looked at them in surprise and did not understand what he had done because he was Inez's husband, and how he treated her was only his business. The Viscount falls to his knees and asks his wife to forgive him, and then asks if she remembers that he proposed to her at the same event and promised to give her happiness, and this time he will definitely keep his word. The Countess says that she doesn't know what he's thinking about, but she thinks that he's a nobody now, and therefore suggests that he leave quietly if he doesn't want someone who has already lost his status to be trampled into the ground. The servant tells the master that the emperor said he would deal with him, and then threw him out of the castle and closed the door. The lady asks in surprise what is going on, and thinks that Countess Briarton is having a hard time. The man asks if it is not her fault to begin with, since she thinks that arguing with her husband in front of foreign guests is shameful. The lady suggests that he watch his expression, and then asks him if he thinks it was a mistake to put all the responsibility for management on her shoulders. The Lord asks if they all think differently. The Lord says it's sad to think about it. The man is surprised when he sees him. His Majesty says that he did not help at all in managing the exhibition, and asks how he was brought here, although he understands the desire to appear before representatives, but believes that this exhibition has shown the best results in the diplomatic and creative spheres in several generations. The king understands that many will gather here to watch, and therefore does not want these achievements to be belittled there, because for him, no personal advancement will take priority over the development of Lancaster. His Majesty says that if the Lord is dissatisfied, then let him demonstrate it with his successes. The prince bandaged the lady's hand and asks if it is too tight. Inez apologizes for having to do this, but he objects and says it is his duty. The Countess says that she is the reason for all the noise in front of the representatives, but he suggests that she should worry about her own condition. The lady says that, by the way, a similar situation happened that time, and he helped her, and she believes that he helps her every time. Enoch says that it is true, and that as far as his powers allow, he always wants to be useful to her, and then asks what she thinks. Inez thanks him and says that she is surprised because there is even a first aid kit in the palace restroom. He explains that it is because of his esteemed majesty. The young gentleman explains that he likes to drink, and there have been situations when he overdid it a little and got injured, and naturally everything falls on his shoulders. Enoch says that he was stupid at the ball and therefore asks for forgiveness because his actions could have made her feel uncomfortable. At this time, he thought that it was his fault because he was too emotional, and believes that he should have thought about the feelings of the Countess. The gentleman thought that as soon as he saw that this man grabbed her by the wrist, he could not think clearly. Inez objects and says that he did it for her, and he took care of her and stopped Ryan, who wanted to harm her. She says that she was glad about it. The gentleman suggests that she rest, and then says that he will call a doctor. Hearing this, the lady thought that she no longer needs treatment. When Ryan came home, his mother met him, and when she saw his hand, she asked in surprise if he was okay. His brother asked what happened, and if nothing happened at the ball. Ryan explains that he is very tired, and suggests talking tomorrow. And when he came to his room, he thought that he had been stupid, and that tomorrow his actions would be known, and the emperor said that he would personally punish him. The Viscount thought it was a curse, and all because of Inez. And then he remembered Charlotte, and doesn't understand why she hasn't written to him lately. After the Empress's closing remarks, the festival came to an end. Enoch asks if she is tired. Inez replies that she probably gave in to her emotions. The young gentleman says that she still looks happy. The lady explains that it is because she is proud of her work and the difficulties that have passed, and a lot has happened. Inez says that while she was leading this event, she realized something, that she felt like she had finally achieved something. He asks her in surprise what she means. The Countess says that she did something that the previous one couldn't even imagine, and then says that she doesn't want to live as someone's shadow, and she thought that now she can definitely convey her thoughts to others. The lady says that it can be said that she has become more positive about herself, and it is all thanks to meeting him. The young gentleman says that it is all her merit, and he only helped her a little to get to this point. Inez believes that there are many people in the world who are forced to live in the shadows without such help, and she remembers her sad time when she was left with nothing. And now she knows what she needed as her old self, and this desire to change her life. On the way home, the lady fell asleep, and when they arrived, she asked for forgiveness for him, covering her with his jacket. He suggests that she not worry, and the lady says that she will return it after washing. Enoch smiled, and the lady wished him a good journey. Inez looked at the jacket and thought about what she needed to tell Mary to wash it, but she didn't understand how. But she put it on and looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't understand what was happening, because she thought she couldn't pretend she didn't understand these feelings, because she liked him. On the day of the representative's departure, Countess Inez, together with His Majesty, came to see the delegation off. The lady tells Sheldon that she hopes he had a good time. The prince says that her advice helped him a lot, and then kisses her hand and says that next time he will personally invite her to Kaldarov's palace. The newspaper wrote that the festival in Lancaster was successfully completed, after which sales on the Street of Masters increased significantly. The flow of visitors from other countries was endless, and apparently now it has become a tourist place of Lancaster. The main role in this exhibition was of course taken by the Countess of Briarton. The lady with dark hair says that it is amazing because the Countess successfully completed the celebration, and her friend says that she is also delighted about it, and says because they are alone, and then says that she was worried whether she would be able to win the divorce suit. The lady with red hair says it was shocking because she believes it is not easy for women to win a court case during a divorce. The lady with dark hair says that she has found her place and is now actively involved in public life, and the Countess is truly strong. The woman asks if they have heard these rumors, and then says that the Emperor, in gratitude for such a successful organization, wants to include the Countess in the Royal Art Association. The lady with red hair was surprised, and then said that this is such an honor for the artist, because it turns out that now the Countess is an official member of this association. The lady with dark hair reports that they say the decision was delayed due to dissatisfaction of the current representatives. At this time, the main character thought that the festival was successful, and the young generation of Kaldorf was satisfied, and she thought that there was no need to worry about the Royal Association of Arts. But this was unexpected. The maid tells the mistress not to worry so much, because even if she is not included, her abilities will not go anywhere, and all the residents know about what she has endured. Inez objects because she understands that they have enormous influence throughout the state, and believes that it is impossible to be an artist in Lancaster without getting around them. The Countess says that she wants to organize her exhibition. After receiving their official consent, Mary asks in surprise if this is important for her life as a creator. The lady explains that it can be said that this is what she wants to do as a creator, and at that time, she thought that after the end of this soulful exhibition, she immediately wanted to find a place to open her own. But who knew that they would be so picky? The main character understands that she has a very long way to go, and she must be strong. Suddenly, a woman enters the room and says that she has received a letter from the palace. Hearing this, the lady thought that before this, she had not even suspected that the issue with her personal exhibition would be resolved in this way. The head of the association claims that this is unthinkable, because he believes that it is impossible to include the Countess in the association, because there has not been a single woman in it before. The gentleman says that whatever her merits, she devalues the history and traditions of their association. Hearing this, the king smiled and suggested that the gentleman calm down, since they could start with small compromises. The aristocrat suggests that His Majesty not beat around the bush, because he believes that he has already expressed his desire for the Countess to join the association. Asher asks what he was thinking about, and then, hearing this, the king asks what he just said. The head of the association asks for forgiveness from His Excellency and says that he got carried away, even off topic, and then asks what it was about. When the king was alone, he looked at the portrait of his father and thought that it was funny because people from other countries were coming to find out the situation there. His Majesty believes that he cannot fulfill even one demand of his subjects, but his father gave him the royal title, and apparently he could not justify it. The Duke of Sussex asks the Countess if she too has received an invitation from the Queen. She replies that she has, and is unexpectedly glad to see him. At this time, the main character thought that maybe it was because they had not seen each other since the exhibition, and it seemed to her that he had lost a little weight. Enoch looked at the lady and said that she looks happy because she is smiling all this time. The lady thought that she should calm down, and even if she admitted her feelings, who thinks that showing them is a completely different matter because she understands that something could go wrong and she risks ruining their good relationship. The Queen bids the two of them pass and then turns to the Countess and apologizes for what happened and explains that she really wanted her to join the association. Inessa says that he is not terrible and everything is fine, and therefore she cannot worry. Her Majesty thanked for such words and then says that she will tell them why she called them both. The Queen says that a letter has arrived from Kaldorf, and they want to officially invite the two of them on the occasion of the successful exhibition. Hearing this, the lady was surprised, and Her Majesty explains that they say that they want to hear how they achieved such success, and at the same time, they offered them to open their first personal festival. Helena says that this has never happened before, and she will be proud of them because it is an honor, just like being a member of the Art Association. Her Majesty reports that naturally this time there will also be good people willing to help them. The main character heard this and thought about the association workers, then asked if she could go to Kaldorf. The lady explains that she simply thought that the association might protest strongly if she made a fuss in the art world again. Then she says that from now on, she will be involved in the cultural life of this country so that they will have less to deal with. Hearing this, Enoch asks why it should be like this, and then claims that at the last festival, it was obvious that the Art Association does not care one bit about the development of culture. The gentleman says that they are only worried about their pride, dividing everything into good and bad, discriminating against people. He believes that it is not worth depending on such pathetic people, and suggests that she do what her soul desires. The Queen says she will assume they have accepted the offer and will send them a schedule soon, but in the meantime, they can return. The butler tells His Majesty that the Emperor is waiting for him. Enoch asks if he was buried. The king says he was called. The young gentleman asks him to stop calling him without warning, and then asks what happened. The emperor says that it will be unexpected, but this concerns the upcoming event in Kaldorf, and then asks what if he does not participate in it. Enoch asks why surprised. The elder brother claims that he himself knows that in the cultural world of Lancaster, there is a strong opposition to the Countess of Briarton. The prince says he knows the association is concerned about this, and the king agrees with him and says they have been actively protesting lately. His Majesty says that she won the case as a woman and also achieved a successful exhibition without the help of famous artists, and therefore they feel that this greatly threatens their reputation and merits. Enoch says that this is impossible, and then asks how this relates to his refusal to participate. His Majesty says that there are many rumors about them, that she was able to be active because of the Duke of Sussex. Hearing this, the young gentleman objects and says that this is nonsense. The king says that he knows, but his wife does not approach work casually, but he says that he had better refuse this time. Enoch says he doesn't care what others think of them. Edward asks if he's sure the rumors won't affect his reputation. The Duke says that Countess Briarton is more important to him than her reputation, and if her abilities are limited, there then the thirst for glory after accepting her talent, and he sees no other reason why his brother behaves this way. The king asks if there is another reason why he is helping the Countess, and then explains that he means that he had better stop if the reason for his concern for her is his early interest. His Majesty says that he is simply grateful to her because he has not seen him shine while doing something for a long time. But he understands that if Enoch gets hurt because of this, and if he closes himself off again, demonstrating indifference, then he wants to prevent this at all costs. The Duke says that his brother is right, and then says that he will indeed follow her because of his greed, and then reminds that, as he said, he was a victim of his desires and interests. And then he claims that not this time. And Enoch says that he wants to see with his own eyes how her talent develops, and then he says that His Majesty can call it selfish. Edward says that he understood him, but still could not remain silent, and says that he can go, and he will tell Caldorf that they will both visit them. Enoch tells his brother that he knows how much he cares about him, and that is why he is very grateful to him. Hearing this, the king does not understand when he grew up so much, and now even he cannot be scolded. At this time the queen entered the room and said in surprise that he looked as if he had let go of his child from his arms. Helena hugs her husband and says she knows he feels indebted to him for his childhood, and then she claims that he can't live on that alone, and the Duke hardly wants it. The Queen says that if he has made his choice, and if he is sure that it will be right, then all they can do is believe and gently guide him. Edward says that they will do so, and at that moment he thought that all the men in their family cannot resist the girls they like. But unlike his brother, at least he got married. The butler asks the lady to wait a little because the carriage will arrive soon. Inez saw people who were members of the art association. The gentleman says that the fact that common people were given the opportunity to join the exhibition goes beyond all possible limits. Another aristocrat says that the Countess chose too low a way to approach art, and besides this time, there were many artists who live on the street and barely make ends meet. The man says he doesn't understand where Lancaster's art scene is heading. Hearing this, the main character thought that she should endure, because she understands that there is no point in arranging a show down there, and she believes that if she gets involved with them, something will happen, and it will affect His Excellency. Suddenly, the girl heard Enoch say that he had a question, and then asked how they assessed this arrogance. The gentleman wonders why everyone has suddenly become silent, and asks if they said anything shameful about Countess Briarton. The Lord asks if he himself does not see a problem with her behavior. After all, as an artist in Lancaster, he needs to read and observe the traditions of the Royal Association of Arts. The man offers to look at her and asks if he didn't notice how brazenly she behaved at this exhibition, and then screaming says that they are not happy with this, and she doesn't even make an effort to enter their world of art and get used to it. Hearing this, the main character thought that she was suffocating, because no matter what she did in the future, they would again misunderstand and start making fun of her. Enoch asks if they thought about leaving her alone so she could get used to it. Then he claims that to her face, they say that the art world in Lancaster is flourishing. But behind her back, they only say mean things about the exhibition. His Excellency asks who would want to join them with such an attitude. And then he says that they forget one important thing, that Her Majesty the Empress entrusted the organization to two people, including the Countess, and he is participating in it along with her. Hearing this, the man thought that speaking badly about this festival was an insult not only to the Countess of Brighton, but also to the Duke of Sussex. Enoch reports that he was the one who recommended her, and therefore, according to them, he does not understand people at all, since he chose such an arrogant person. The Lord screams and claims that this is nonsense, and then he claims that they would never say such absurd things about him. The Duke asks if this absurdity is appropriate in relation to the Countess. He says that the Art Association receives a salary from the state, and he thought that all the artists who are part of it have the necessary personal qualities and behave accordingly. Enoch says that despite such a low act as discussing someone, he gets the impression that all the expectations placed on them have been destroyed, and then he says that he is disappointed in them. The Lord asks if they will do anything, because he believes that their authority could be greatly damaged if they do not take action against the Countess. When Enoch saw the Countess, he thought that she had heard everything he says, that she has no need to hide in such a place, and this exhibition has achieved great results, worthy of anyone's praise. The Duke says that she does not need to listen to the words of these pathetic aristocrats. She turns to His Excellency and says that everything is fine, and on the contrary, she is pleased that he took her side in such a situation. The lady claims that in general everything is really fine. She says that she can't say that it didn't bother her at all, and to be honest, when she wanted to join them and get their respect. Inez remembers that in a past life, Ryan passed off her painting as his own and became a member of the association, and she regretted it and wanted to have at least something under her name. The girl believes that apparently in this life, she also attached too much importance to the association, but she understands that now it doesn't bother her at all. Inez knows that her and His Majesty Society and the Royal Association of Arts are now the only people whose recognition she wants to receive. She says that she does not care what people will think of her, and even if she does not enter the association because she is a one-man artist. The Viscountess hits Charlotte with a club and asks her if she thinks that in their family's situation there will be money for an adulteress like her. The lady with red hair begs the mistress to let her meet Ryan again, and then says that if she gives her a chance, she will back down. The Viscountess asks, screaming if it wasn't her fault from the very beginning, and believes that it was she who wagged her tail in front of her dear son. The lady says that if it weren't for her, he would have been able to continue living in luxury under the wing of the Countess of Briarton. Charlotte asks if she wants to say that he is an innocent victim, and then claims that he is a cheater himself. Upon hearing this, Ryan's mother is surprised and asks what she is talking about. The woman says that this lady is very impudent, and you won't find anyone like her anymore. At this time, Ryan enters the room. The girl asks why it is so difficult to contact him lately, and then says that he did not answer, and she came to him herself. The Viscount replies that he simply doesn't have time for her right now. Charlotte asks in surprise what this means. He says he will tell her directly that his head is spinning from worrying about how to get Inez back, and the fact that she was his partner makes everything very difficult. Ryan wishes her a safe journey and suggests that they stop dating. Hearing this, Charlotte was very disappointed and thought that he was a brute, and she wondered who would keep such a terrible man like him from loving. Charlotte understands that in social circles she has already lost all her image and therefore understands that no one will want to marry her. She believes that this is all because she was slandered and does not understand what she did wrong. The lady with red hair believed that this was the only way to increase her status in the upper classes. When she came home, she thought that she had rubbed her feet all the way, and after the novel was revealed, she was living such a life and lost funding on behalf of her friend Inez. Charlotte recalls that she once lived in the most high-class hotel and fell asleep drunk from sweet food and alcohol. Suddenly, the lady saw the letter, and she wondered who it was. From Charlotte realized that her mother was worried about her because they were still a family. Mama writes to Charlotte that she has been contacted by the Countess of Briarton, and then asks if it is true that she has had an affair with Mrs. Ines's husband. The woman asks if she has done anything vulgar since she is in high society, and also wonders if she has forgotten to eat. Mom writes that this news made Dad feel unwell, because I understand how much money was spent to send her to Lancarest, and she tells him to immediately apologize to Mrs. Inez. After reading the letter, Charlotte became very angry and screamed, saying that it infuriates her and that she hates Inez because she believes that she is to blame for everything. and that her existence always makes her look miserable. Charlotte remembers that when she was still a child, a beautifully dressed Inez approached her and asked her name. The lady with red hair remembers that her eyes were green like summer grass. The Jason Barons were an unremarkable family of minor nobles in the village, and they were so poor that they had no land of their own. Therefore, her parents always had to cross paths with wealthy people. Charlotte understands that the only thing that their family could show without embarrassment in such an insignificant state was friendship with Inez. The girl with red hair was disgusted because she did not understand why she had to treat such a country bumpkin, and she took tasteless bread from children who smelled of slop. The lady recalled that their house smelled of burning because it was not ventilated, and all these memories only made her angry because she wanted it all to burn to the ground. However, Charlotte understood that nothing would change, and she would never be able to get out of this poor settlement. The girl dreamed that she would get married and live just as poorly, and would be buried in the same poverty, and suddenly fell asleep. And Charlotte was awakened by the voice of Inez, who came to meet her. The Earls of Briarton came to the village during the summer holidays. Their daughter Inez was as beautiful as a porcelain doll. The lady with red hair understood that even her appearance, which she considered the most beautiful in the area, could not compare with her beauty. The Earl of Briarton thanked Lady Jason for being a friend to their daughter. They were worried that she would not befriend her rivals, so the girl received gifts for getting close to her. And Charlotte looked at the Briarton family and understood that they were very happy. And after a wonderful time spent with them, when she returned home, her mother asked her daughter where she had been all day, and then said that her hands were tired from work, and asked her to help her. Hearing this, the girl thought that she seemed to be suffocating, and having left Inez, she came to a completely different world. One day, the maid asked Inez to come over for a while, and the girl said that she would go away. At this time, Charlotte lay down on her bed and thought that it was very soft, and thought that she wanted this to be her home. And when I saw the precious stone, I realized that it was probably worth more than their house. When Inez returned, she said that it was nothing serious and suggested continuing to put the puzzles together. The girl does not understand what to do because she was confused and accidentally took this brooch and thought that no one would know if she returned it back tomorrow. At home during dinner, the father asked his daughter what she was holding in her hands, and when he saw it, he asked where she got this high-quality brooch. Charlotte explains that Inez gave it to her as gratitude for their friendship. The father screams and asks if she thinks he will believe it. The man went with his daughter to the count and returned the brooch, and then asked for forgiveness because he could not give her anything but thought that he was able to raise her well. Charlotte, with tears in her eyes, insists that she did not steal anything, and then asks why he does not believe her. The lady with red hair believed that her parents, although they did not want to interfere with who she communicated with, busy with household chores, did not want to give her a proper upbringing. This was their love. Inez turns to the Baron and says that he probably misunderstood because she gave the brooch to Charlotte, and then she claims that she did not steal it. Hearing this, the father was surprised because it was a very expensive gift and said that she was very generous. At this time, Charlotte thought about the feeling of inferiority that had arisen in just a moment and was directed towards Inez and this feeling that began to grow within her. Summer ended, and they returned to the city, after which Inez still wrote to her for a long time, and one of those days, she received a letter saying that Inez's parents had passed away. Charlotte arrived at the Earl of Briarton's house and said that she was invited by Inez. The butler asks if she is the Baroness Charlotte Jason and bids her come in. At this time, Inez comes out, dressed all in black, and says that she did not know who to turn to, and therefore asks for forgiveness. Inez tells her about the grief that happened to their family, but Charlotte doesn't listen to her and keeps looking at the high-class furniture and the luxury that was in the house. The lady with red hair thought that this was the very aristocratic life of her dreams. Charlotte tells her friend not to worry because she will always be there and at that moment, she thought that she finally had a chance. Inez was in a very unstable state after the loss of her family, and Charlotte stayed in their house and consoled Inez, who was left alone with all her heart. The lady with red hair suggested that Inez look at the roses she had bought, thinking that they could cheer her up with seasonal flowers. Then she suggested that they remove the sad lilies and put in these flowers. The maid says that the Count's family loved lilies, and the time of veneration has not yet passed. Inez tells Mary to stop because she did it for her. Charlotte tells her friend that the ladies are already running around the shops to prepare for the ball, and they look happy, and in their village, you would never even dream of seeing such a thing. Hearing this, Inez suggests going together, and it seems to her that her mood improves if she is with her. Charlotte asks if it's okay that she won't be able to look like those ladies, because in her rush, she didn't even grab a suitable dress. The lady says that she will cover all expenses so that she can dress up, and then she says that she would like her first ball to be a wonderful memory. Hearing this, Charlotte said that it was very touching, and thought about her, even in this torment, and she thinks it's funny. The lady with red hair remembers that many high-ranking officials bowed their heads before her, how she was with her, and she did not feel the need for money every day was immensely sweet. Of course, there were also scammers who interfered with this. The guy came up to the Countess and said that he was glad to meet her. Then he reminded her that they had met last night. Inez asked if he was Viscount Goth. Seeing them, Charlotte thought that she needed to contact some guy. After all, she understands that he looks like the most ordinary simpleton. Charlotte wondered if Inez would marry him. Would they have the same happy family as her parents? A rich, carefree, ideal, and beautiful family. And she thinks that it kind of pisses her off. And then the lady with the red hair comes up to Inez and asks if she was being too brazen in their conversation. And the man says not at all, and then everything went without a hitch. A friend asked Ryan if he loved her, and he answered that of course, he loved her so much that he wanted to get rid of Inez as soon as possible. The girl thought that Ryan was a simpleton, just as she imagined. And she was waiting for the day when you can take everything from her, using the right of the head of the Ryan family, because she thought that it was an unconditional victory. The morning paper reported that the Countess of Briarton had received a royal invitation from Caldorf. When the lady read about it, she thought that the world was too cruel to her. Charlotte read about the Royal Arts Association being further reduced in size by the government's condemnation of the exhibition, and thought that this might be useful to her. The lady with red hair believes that Inez and Ryan are to blame for her being left to survive in this poverty, and therefore thinks that it is unfair. At this time, Mary asks the lady to be careful with food and cold water because she has a weak stomach, and also reminds her not to forget to take the medicine for seasickness that she put in her bag. Inez tells her not to worry, as long as she is careful, and then sets off on her journey. At this time, there are many rumors about these two, that the Countess was able to take part in this exhibition, only thanks to the Sussexes. The Countess turns to His Excellency and says that they have apparently arrived in Caldorf, and then she says that it is amazing because they simply moved from place to place, but the landscapes have changed so much. Enoch explains that the weather is calm because there is a sea nearby and a large variety of seafood. Hearing this, she is surprised and says that he is so well informed. The lady asks him if he has been there before. He replies that the place connects him with his past. At this time, the main character thought that he does not talk about this because he thinks that this is an awkward topic for him. The Duke says that the Empress who invited them to Caldorf. Then some difficulties arose because the king has several children, but Prince Sheldon is the first heir and seems to have stated that he does not want to take over the throne. Inez asks why so suddenly. The gentleman says that he does not know the exact reason, but they say that the king is not feeling well because of it, and therefore he thinks that they will have to be more careful and avoid sensitive topics in front of him. The lady explains that she is asking just in case. The king greeted the Countess of Briarton and the Duke of Sussex and said he had heard a lot from representatives about their successful exhibition, and especially about the Countess. Demos says that her creative popularity has spread to their region because she made a huge effort and fulfilled her duties, unlike one slob who forgot about them. The king says that he heard that she wants to open her own exhibition. And then he says that if she doesn't mind, then it would be an honor for them to hold it here, because they will spare no resources. Inez says she will definitely do it. The king turns to the duke and says that Lady Atlee influenced the decision to invite him, and he thinks that apparently they still have good memories. Enoch says that he will definitely thank her. Hearing this, the girl became interested in who this Lady Atlee is. With a respectful reception in Kaldorf, preparations for the exhibition gradually continued. The main character thought that she would be more successful than she imagined. The man tells the lady that all the parcels from Lancaster have arrived. When she looks at the paintings, she realizes that they all came under the name of Viscount Gott and were returned to her after the trial. The Countess says that if it weren't for this, her paintings wouldn't be at the exhibition. The gentleman says that this time he will finally be presented under the name of a real artist, and he will also go to help there. At this time, the main character thought that after that exhibition, he still helps her now and believes that her debts to him are growing. Inez thought that it seemed to her that he saw in her something more than just an ordinary sponsor, and she liked him, and maybe if they both wanted it, they would become a couple. The main character does not understand whether this is necessary because she believes that for this reason, the association will start talking about him. She assumes that they will break up badly and their relationship will get worse. The lady thought that maybe she was doing the wrong thing by not listening to her heart, but she understood that the mistake could not be corrected later. At this time, Sheldon looked at the lady and then said that she had a sad face. Seeing him, the girl was surprised, and then screaming asked how he ended up there. The prince tells her to be quiet because he went out quietly, avoiding the guards, and then asks what's wrong with her and says that he came to look because he thought that she was very happy about the preparation of the exhibition. Sheldon takes the lady by the hand and offers to go with him. She asks in surprise, where he says he is going to get some fresh air. When Inez looked into the room, she said that it was the first time she had seen such a huge studio. The prince asks if there are any such places in Lancaster. She replies that she has heard that there are similar ones, but they are all the property of other people. The gentleman agrees with her and says that Lancaster is completely full, and the lady thought that it was impossible to deny. When the main character saw the painting, she said that it was beautiful. And then she said that she saw the work of Kaldorf with her own eyes for the first time, and believed that it would be overwhelming in its passion. Sheldon asks if she really thinks so, and the girl looks at him and asks, "Really?" He says that it is his painting. The prince explains that he offered to take her for a walk, but in reality it was just an excuse for wanting to show her off to her, and says that thanks to her, he wanted to create again. Inez says that she heard that he does not intend to become king and thinks that it must not have been easy for him to go against the orders of His Majesty. The prince explains that he is the first heir in words, but in truth he has many younger ones, and they have a passion for politics. He believes that therefore anyone will become a better king than him. Sheldon says that the parents haven't gotten over it yet, and they are still cautious. He reminds that, as she said, it is unhealthy to live according to someone else's wishes in the shadows. Inez thanked His Highness for today and said it was a breath of fresh air in the chaos of preparation. The prince says that he thought she was upset because things weren't working out romantically. Hearing this, the lady objects and says that she doesn't have anyone like that. The young gentleman thought that she had a good relationship with the Duke of Sussex, and if there was nothing between them, then he did not understand what that look meant. Sheldon says that even if that's the case, he's not bad either. At that moment, the Duke entered the room and overheard their conversation. The long preparations came to an end, and the long-awaited day of the exhibition finally arrived. The maid asks the Countess if she likes it. The mistress thanks her and says that it is very beautiful because she could not get enough sleep these days, but thanks to her help, she will look decent. And at that time, I thought that finally she will be able to rest after this day. Enoch. That the countess looks tired, and then asks if she is okay. The lady wonders if it is very noticeable, because she thought that the makeup should have hidden at least a little. His Majesty says that he is simply more worried about her than anyone else, and of course, he will notice. And then he says that he thought that she would not even have time to eat, and so he brought a snack. At this time, a girl ran up to the gentleman and asked how long they had not seen each other. Enoch says that this is Lady Margaret Attley, but the girl objects and asks to call her simply Margaret and says that she really wanted to see them. The lady says that she never introduced herself properly and then says that she and the Duke of Sussex were once engaged. Inez says, in surprise, that he had a fiancée and she didn't even know. Margarita explains that they never got married because they weren't right for each other, but she believes that His Majesty is still quite good-looking. At this time, the main character does not understand why she did not even think that it could not be, that such a wonderful person did not have a partner. The butler tells the Countess that it is time for her to prepare and make a speech, and the Duke suggests going as he is looking forward to it. Inez addresses the ladies and gentlemen gathered there that evening and asks for permission to express her sincere gratitude for visiting her exhibition. The lady says that many people helped her in her organization, and therefore she is filled with pride that she was able to open her exhibition. The Countess says that the theme of today's event is return. And then she says that all the paintings that are there were once published under Ryan's name, but when she filed for divorce, she was able to prove that they were her creations. The main character says that all these works serve as an indicator of the fact that she has regained her life, and hopes that everyone present here will find a response in at least one of the paintings. The girl says that the Duke of Sussex provided her with invaluable support, and if he had not agreed to help her, she would not have even had a chance to return her paintings and show them to the world. And then she thanks him. The Duke says he is honored that he was the first to see her genius. I wish everyone a good rest. At this time, the main character thought that she had not even imagined that the atmosphere in Lancaster and Caldorf would be so different because they had only just crossed the border. Inez believes that with the support of many people, she has gained status in Lancaster, but she knows that there are many who still look askance at the divorced girl. Margaret approaches the Duke and says that the Countess is very popular. He replies that it is obvious, and in addition to her talent for art, she is very charismatic. Margaret says that he is not in a position to say anything about others, and then says that now a lot of girls want to talk to him. Enoch apologizes and explains that he already likes someone at the moment. Hearing this, the lady was surprised, and then said that spring had come, even to such a seemingly small rock as he. Inez saw the Duke with the girl and thought about it. The Lord asks the Countess if she is okay. Inez apologizes and says that she probably drank too much and therefore thinks that she needs to rest. Margarita asks the Duke why he is standing and then tells him not to make such a terrible sympathetic face, but to follow her. When the main character went out onto the balcony, she didn't understand what she was doing because she left in the middle of a speech at her own exhibition. Enoch asks the lady if everything is okay and then says that he was worried. She explains that she was wondering why she had such a strange feeling because before she went out for him, and this time he came for her. Inez apologizes and says that she probably overdid it, but suddenly she tripped and the gentleman caught her and hugged her around the waist. The lady asks how true the rumors are about his wedding, and at that time she thought that she was stupid because she didn't understand why she said this. The girl understands that as soon as she sobers up, she will regret it, but now she wants to know how he feels about these rumors and how strong his feelings for his bride were at that moment, because she wants to know his feelings. Enoch explains that it was a long time ago because then they were both still children and no one took it too seriously. Inez says that apparently they were very close, and at that time she thought that she should shut her mouth, and then she says that she thinks they approached each other and so joyfully discussed something, and also asks if he is sorry that the rumors did not become true. The Duke asks, "How about her?" and then wonders why she asks. He says that no matter who they discuss him with and who confesses to him, and then asks if this has always bothered her. Hearing this, the main character thought that it was she who first drew the line by moving away, afraid of losing herself, and therefore she believes that she has no right to interfere in his personal life, and thinks that she can blame it on alcohol. Inez says that she was not indifferent, and reports that she was glad that he thought about her feelings then, and when the situation with the art association happened, she was grateful that he was on her side. The girl says that for him, it could be ordinary good nature, and he said that there was nothing to thank him for, but for her, it meant a lot, and she was worried about him very much. The Countess says that she did not want to burden him with her confession, and to be even more honest, she was afraid that he would not return to his previous relationship after that. Enoch wonders if he can ask why she cares so much about him. Then he moves closer to her. The girl takes a step back and says that if he says it was a mistake, she will accept it, and at that moment, the Duke hugs and kisses her. Inez asks His Excellency to wait, and he asks why he has to wait all this time, and then says that he was only waiting for this mistake on her part. Enoch says that whether it is a mistake or sincerity, he doesn't care, and now no matter how much she wants to distance herself, he will not give in to this. The main character says that they need to go back to the hall and then kisses him on the lips. The lady asks how long the Countess of Briarton has been away, as she wanted to speak to her. The lady with the black hair says that she heard that the lady had gone to rest and thinks that she will probably come soon. The exhibition ended after midnight. The main character learned that Margaret Attley was the Marquise's wife, and she had abandoned her engagement to Enoch because she had met true love. At this point, the young lady doesn't understand how she was so wrong. Margaret says that the reason they invited her to Caldorf is because they are the main characters of the exhibition, and she wanted to ask them for something personally. The lady says that she will explain later because they will meet again at His Majesty's dinner. Enoch says that it's time for them to go too. Meanwhile, the main character doesn't understand what to do, because her face is burning from the memories of what happened. The girl does not understand that if she cannot control herself in the carriage, but she is so tired that she fell asleep. At this time, the gentleman thanked her for her trust because she lay down on him and considers that she is too defenseless. Enoch says that to be honest, he thought a little before going here, and as his brother said, if he doesn't want to cause her any inconvenience, then he'd better retreat, and he thought about it. The Duke understands that he has already become accustomed to giving up something, and even if he had to reluctantly give her up, it seemed to him that he could do it for her sake. However, he worries about her and no longer wants to be on the sidelines. The servant tells His Excellency that they have arrived, and when he saw them, he thought that he did not even know that they were in such a relationship. Enoch laid the girl on the bed and then asked her to take off her clothes and lie down normally, and said that he would call the maid. Suddenly, the man felt the lady holding his hand and telling him that he had to go. Inez turns to His Excellency and asks him not to go, and then says that she wants to stay with him tonight. When the lady woke up in the morning, she saw the guy who was lying with her. She remembered what she told him last night and thought that she was not herself. Enoch asks if she slept well, and then says that she slept so soundly. Inez asks, in surprise, if he didn't let her sleep, and the gentleman apologized. The Duke says that when he just opened his eyes, he thought that she might regret this night, and he was worried about it. Zero Lady assures that there is no reason for this, and all yesterday's confessions were sincere. The girl asks how long he will call her Countess, and then reminds him that he even calls Margaret by her first name. She suggests that at least when they are alone, he call her Inez. Inez tells His Excellency that there should be a dinner in the royal chambers today, and he says that they still have time, and suggests that they spend some time together, and then suggests calling him Enoch. The main character thought that in the end, they weren't late, and they managed to get there on time. The king's aunt Melissa says that she is glad to see them in such a setting. Then she asks for forgiveness and explains that His Majesty will not be able to attend today due to urgent state affairs, and he said that he will make time before their departure. Sitting at the table, Inez thought that if you look closely at the first meeting, His Majesty introduced her as his daughter, and that is why she was confused. And she thinks that apparently he often forgets something. Melissa asks if they are married yet, and then says that if she had a daughter, she would want a son-in-law like him. The Duke thanked the lady and then said that he already likes someone and looked at Inez. And the girl does not understand why he looks at her side saying such things. The lady turns to the Countess and says that she has several nephews. The lady says that in fact, as an artist, she cannot stand still and plans to concentrate on her work for some time. Hearing this, Margaret says that she is already an amazing artist and believes that she became the foundation of the Lancaster art scene, where women were not accepted. And then she says that she truly respects her. The Marquise thinks that it would be great if Andrea, her daughter, could study with her. Inez says she heard that they are not like Lancaster, and there is freedom in the art world. Margaret says that of course they have a lot of female specialists, but there are no schools that accept girls. The Marquise says that she learned to paint pictures, not officially but at home. The main character explains that she was able to learn this because her parents respected her passion and cared for her, and because almost all girls from the nobility get married as soon as the time comes. Margaret asks if she would like to meet her daughter after dinner. Inez looked at the sea and said that it was very beautiful. Margaret said that they could admire it calmly because this beach belonged to their family. The daughter tells her mother that she has already arrived, and the lady says that she will be very surprised when she finds out who she came with. The Marchioness reports that it is the Countess of Briarton, whom she wanted to see. The girl with black hair says that she is pleased to meet you, and then says that she is Andrea Etley, and it is an honor for her to meet the lady. Inez says that she is also very happy to meet them, and then says in surprise that this is her collection from the exhibition. Andrea says that she has recently started learning to draw, and asks if she could look at her work because she wants to hear her opinion. Margarita tells her daughter that she shouldn't bother the guests like that, but Inez says that everything is fine because they are probably happy to see her like this. The main character looked at her parents and thought that they definitely weren't against her appearance and raised her well, and they even remind her of her parents. The girl tells the Countess that she will take her to her workshop. Inez says that she draws very beautifully and believes that at her age she already has such abilities and potential. Andrea was delighted to hear this, and the lady said that it only seemed that the movement was a little weak, and therefore she thought it would be a good idea to make sketches more often. The Countess says that it is not necessary to put all her efforts into it, but she believes that it will help her if she learns to create special drawings in a short time. Andrea says that she is very glad that she was able to listen to her advice. The lady asks if she is not studying with her tutor, and the girl says that she has no one else to ask for advice except her. Hearing this, the main character remembered that she cannot go to the academy like other children, and believes that it is not easy for her to find a person who will appreciate her work. After all, she understands that she has so much talent and passion, and she is interested in whether she will continue to draw further. Inez knows that the children from the Street of Artists were like that too, but they would not have been accepted into the academy because they were from ordinary families, and they did not even have a chance to learn to draw. In the evening, while walking by the sea, Enoch asks the Countess what she is thinking about. She replies that she remembered a recent conversation with Andrea, and that children do not have the opportunity to gain a variety of experiences, apparently like in Kaldorf. The lady reports that in the country that is beyond its borders, academies accept only boys from rich families, and Andrea is much younger than her, but it is very sad that she is not a bit different from her at her age. Ines says that it is strange because she is a girl from an ordinary family, and she has nowhere to gain knowledge, and only because of these reasons in this world is it worth giving up your business. She apologizes and says that she was thinking too deeply. The gentleman asks if this is all, and then explains that it seems to him that the Inez that he knows still has something left to say. The main character says that she wants to create a place where everyone can study, no matter who they are, without discrimination. The main thing is to have desire. Inez says that she wants to build a school and that children from both rich and ordinary families could enter this academy. The lady says that she finally realized that the art world in Lancaster is very strange, and the people in it not only do not try to develop themselves, they focus only on themselves. Inez says that while some are in power, those who truly want to learn art lose even the slightest chance. The lady asks where such amazing kids will have a chance to recognize their talent and start studying. The Duke says it won't be easy. Hearing this, the main character thought that this was being said even by the one who always tried to support her in everything, and believed that it really must be difficult. Providing women and children with the opportunity to receive an education that was unavailable to all of them this time. And Inez knows that she will definitely be subjected to even more condemnation than she is now. But despite this, she wants to do it. The girl understands that at least the reason was her return before she became who she was, and she knows that many people helped her, and thanks to their good intentions, she received a new life. The main character believes that if she is destined to help someone change their life, then she will definitely help them. Inez looked at the guy and thought about the fact that this look that wants her to fulfill what she believes in. Enoch says that it will be very difficult, and there will be many things that she cannot do alone. And then he says that it is not bad because she will have at least one companion in this matter. The Countess asks what to do if this time she cannot give him individual responsibility. The gentleman says that he will be able to work together with the artist by the hand of God, and therefore will suffer any damage. The personal exhibition in Koldorf ended solemnly, and it was a pity that the time had flown by, but they decided to take a little walk before returning home. Inez asks the boy if he had to dress so simply. He replies that expensive clothes would have been too bulky. At this time, the girl thought that maybe he was just enjoying the fact that no one there knew him. Walking down the street, they had a good time. Closer to evening, the main character says that probably now the dancing will begin, and a woman who is passing by asks why they don't go, since they are a couple. She says that there is a legend that says that a couple who dances on Kaldorf night stays together forever. Hearing this, the gentleman invited the girl to dance. He says that he doesn't care anymore, no matter what anyone says. And then he asks the girl if he can kiss her. Enoch explains that he is not going to do anything without her consent. The lady thought about the terrible thoughts she kept coming back to, and what Ryan would do in his place. These unpleasant memories fly away with the warm, salty wind and disappear completely. There are many people gathered on the pier because they all want to meet Countess Briarton, and it is surprising to them that the artist has gained great popularity. The gentleman says that Inez raised their country's rating in a state with which they had a long-standing mutual hostility. The gentlemen tell the Countess that they heard that her exhibition was in great demand, and therefore ask her to express her opinion. The lady thanked him and explained that it was a significant event where she was able to show Lancaster's art. The man says that she has become the most famous artist even outside the country, and then asks what kind of work she wants to focus on now. The Countess reports that work will have to wait because there is something she needs to do. The gentleman asks what it is that has touched her. She replies that she wants to build a school where aspiring professionals can study art. The man asks in surprise if they don't already have such people. Inez says that the academy she will be open to anyone who wants to study there, without any discrimination, be it status or gender. The Countess's statement received a huge response. The aristocrat says that even if they allow ladies from high families to enter art schools, he does not understand why ordinary people should receive the same education as the rich. The Lord says that this will be an insult to the entire Lancastrian aristocracy. He believes that the fact that ordinary people and women will begin to receive an education means that they risk entering into competition with the rich and displacing them. But for those who had already established themselves in their place and were content with fame, this was a hindrance. The man asks if they even know anything about art, because he believes that this feeling needs to be cultivated from childhood. The lady asks, has he forgotten that their daughter also desperately wanted to study sculpture, but she had to give up her dream due to the lack of such schools. Those segments of the population that were deprived of such figures began to oppose such people. The lady says that her daughter was so sad when she was not accepted. But the husband calms her down and says that they were just talking about ordinary people. But the lady claims that their daughter is no different from them, in that she cannot get into an art school. The man says that the countess said that she wants to open a private school with her property, and then asks if they have the right to contradict her. The gentleman suggests stopping, because he believes that there is a lot of talk about this in the country now, and now it cannot be stopped by the fact that some aristocrats are showing their dissatisfaction. When the main character reported this to the Queen, Her Majesty said that this was a serious undertaking. Inez claims that she does not plan to give in on this issue. The main character says that, of course, the fact that the Arts Association is opposed will cause great harm from the rich layer of the population, and therefore considers it obvious that Her Majesty called her out of concern about this. Helena says she can't deny it, but moreover she is interested in the reason why she doesn't pay attention to the protests and still wants to open the academy. Inez replies that it is because she believes that the art world in Lancaster can no longer remain in this stagnation. And to put it bluntly, every artist considers such steps of hers to be nothing more than a speck in the eye because she is the Countess of Briarton. The Countess says that when she was the heiress of an influential family in Lancaster, and now an artist working even abroad, and despite all her achievements, she could not gain a foothold here because she is a woman. The main character asks what will happen to their descendants, because she understands that when the Earls of Briarton disappear and the world of Lancaster art becomes closed again, like in the old days, because she understands that nothing will change. Inez says that beautiful things tend to rot, and that is why she does not want such a future for the Lancaster art world. The Countess says that if she opens an academy and creates an environment where anyone can learn art, then this world will be filled with artists with their own free artistic styles. The Queen says, in surprise, that when they both say something like that, it is so similar, and then says that she believes that the lady is right, as is His Majesty. Helena says that the Lancaster government will not interfere with them opening the school, and then says that she hopes that what she thinks is right will come true. The Queen says that they will not be able to help her with this, and therefore asks for forgiveness that they could not be more helpful. Inez says that she is overly happy that they trust her because she understands that there are those who think that she is doing the right thing, and there are those who believe in her, and therefore she will never break. A few days later, a letter arrived at a small newspaper publishing house in Lancaster's district. The man suggests that they come closer to him because he has a special report. He is reading a report on the suspicion of bribery regarding the construction of the Countess of Briarton's school. The artist with the hand of God, Countess of Briarton, is suspected of bribery, and it has been confirmed that the owner of the site where the school was to be built received a large sum of several million gold pieces during the period when the Countess announced the construction of her school. Upon learning of this, the main character says that this is unthinkable since she has not done anything like this, and they are still at the stage of searching for a site for the school, and this is some kind of nonsense. The man explains that this is the answer of Count Hansen, who also suffered damage because he was connected to this case. The construction of the academy could raise the standard of living in the area, but since he does not want to feud with the Countess, he had to agree. And after the deal, the Countess postponed the choice of territory. Hearing this, the main character screams and says that this is nonsense and that Port Publishing House printed this news without a single weighty argument. The gentleman invites her to look at the land transfer document that the informant used as evidence. When the lady saw the signature with the seal, she realized that they were identical to hers. And the man reports that there is another problem, and the very first informant claims that he helped her with this. The Countess asks who he is, and the man replies that it is Charlotte Jason. At this time, the reporter announces that they are starting their interview, and says that in the letter she indicated that she is an accomplice to Miss Briarton in the bribery case. The man says that as far as they know, she was not on the best terms after the divorce hearing. Charlotte says that it was her trick, and after that affair they broke up. And then she says that the Countess contacted Hansen through her, and while she was preparing for the land deal, she did something that no one was supposed to know about. The gentleman asks why she helped her. Then the lady with red hair says that it was not easy for her then, and in exchange for assistance, she did her a favor and said that she would help restore her damaged reputation. Charlotte says that she felt remorse and helped her with this deal all the time. But moreover, she was afraid that after a successful completion, she would finish her off so that she would not say too much. The lady with red hair says that she was very scared and therefore asks for help. If you think about it, between two people from the nobility in the case of bribes, there remain documents about the transfer, as well as the fact that such a rich man as Briarton used Charlotte, with whom she has many common connections. Anyone would have sensed the lie in Charlotte's statements, but people like journalists don't need proof at all. The gentleman says that the lady should not worry, and no matter what happens, they will announce this in their publishing house Port, or for the sake of revealing the truth. He believes that at the moment this is a great accusation against the most famous artist in their state. The art association that was at odds with Inez and the part of society that was against her only fed these rumors. The news grew with furious speed. The aristocrats did not understand whether they could trust this man, around whom there was such a fuss, a school intended for the education of children. The lady asks if this article is true, because she thinks that the Countess does not look like a person who would do such a thing. The gentleman says that remembering that unbearable image that she constantly showed, one can imagine what she could, but he believes that no one knows the truth.